Chapter 1888. When the negative votes exceeded the positive votes, the expressions of Xia Zhilong and the three deans turned ugly. This wasn't a simple vote, but a contest between the eastern and western sacred grounds. The final result wasn't Yi Qinghan's personal victory or defeat, but the face of the sky-reaching church and the Holy Empire. To the sacred grounds, if they lost, they couldn't lose face. If they lost, they couldn't lose appeal. Xia Zhilong and the three deans looked at the other sacred grounds that hadn't expressed their stance yet, hoping to gain their support. Hell, war race, these were independent sacred grounds. They were extremely powerful, and their stance was extremely important. Their stance wouldn't be influenced by anyone, and once they expressed their stance, 3 to 4 sacred grounds that were on good terms with them would vote the same way. Yi Qinghan looked at Moz. He was the leader of Hell's sacred grounds this time. Although he had an agreement with Moz, plans couldn't keep up with changes. Moz's current stance was hard to predict. At least, he didn't immediately express his support for Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan's heart was burning with anxiety, but he remained calm on the surface. The current stance of the sacred grounds wasn't something he could control. The war race also didn't express their stance. The leader of the war race was an old man. He looked ordinary and reserved, but his bones were filled with soaring battle intent. As an upper-level martial saint, once he made his move, it would definitely be earth-shattering. He was the son of the war race's warlord, and the youngest one was called Zhan Kuang. Zhan Kuang looked at Yi Qinghan with a faint smile on his face. He was smart enough to wait for Yi Qinghan to ask for his help. A person that can make Xia Zhilong and the three deans express their support must be extraordinary. A few hundred years ago, he defeated Arthur Shen in 3 moves with his 9th-level world overlord cultivation. Now, he has reached the peak of the lower-level world overlord realm. Such talent is truly terrifying. If he enters the secret realm, he might have a fatal impact on the battle. Zhan Kuang looked like a martial artist, but as someone who could cultivate to the upper-level world overlord realm, his intelligence wasn't something ordinary people could compare to. At this moment, he had the absolute advantage. Moz was also thinking. Now that Yi Qinghan had the support of the Transcending Heaven cult and the Holy Empire, he must have paid a corresponding price. The only treasure that could move the 2 holy lands was the fairy elixir. Yi Qinghan, Zhan Kuang, and Moz exchanged glances. The 3 of them had strange expressions on their faces. Yi Qinghan couldn't transmit his voice because if he did, those upper-level cultivators would easily intercept his voice transmission. The secret would no longer be a secret. Yi Qinghan pondered for a moment. Then, he crossed his arms and tapped his chest with a finger on his right hand, gesturing to Zhan Kuang and Moz. Moz and Zhan Kuang were stunned. This action was clearly a hint. It was just that they weren't sure what this one represented. Yi Qinghan looked at their stunned expressions and couldn't help but feel a little speechless. They couldn't even understand such an obvious hint. 9. Yi Qinghan's back was facing the crowd. Facing the 2 supremes, he silently uttered the word 9. Then, he gestured with his finger. 9 eternal pills, 1 for each of them. Moz nodded and said, "This seat supports Yi Qinghan's entry into the shrouding heaven secret realm." Hua. This was a heavyweight vote. It affected the attitude of a holy land attached to hell. In an instant, Yi Qinghan received 2 more votes and rushed to the 9th vote, equalizing the score once again. Now, it all depended on Zhan Kuang of the battle race. Once Zhan Kuang expressed his stance, the Xiahou Holy Land, sandwiched between the battle race and the Holy Empire, would definitely support him. Yi Qinghan didn't want to wait any longer. He directly bowed and said, "Senior of the battle race, this junior had a preliminary contact with Zhan Jiuxiao of the battle race in the secret realm. Our relationship was very harmonious and we also reached a preliminary agreement. In addition, I found a jade pendant of the battle race somewhere in the secret realm. I found it on a corpse. Senior, please take a look. After saying that, Yi Qinghan respectfully presented the jade pendant to Zhan Kuang. Zhan Kuang looked at the jade pendant from afar. His pupils shrank and his iron fists clenched tightly. Flames burned in his eyes and his battle intent was no longer restrained. His aura soared into the sky, suppressing the surrounding experts so much that they didn't dare to speak. This is 18th Brother's jade pendant. He had been missing for many years. So it turns out that he had entered the shrouding heaven's secret realm and actually died there. Zhan Kuang's face was ferocious as he roared, "Where is his corpse?" His flesh and blood have already rotted away, leaving behind only white bones. This junior didn't want to let his corpse lie in the wilderness, so I buried him. Yi Qinghan said solemnly. Zhan Kuang looked at Yi Qinghan with a hint of emotion in his eyes. After a long time, he said in a hoarse voice, "Many thanks. This old man owes you a favor. All right, I support you in entering the secret realm." When the Xiahou Holy Land saw the battle race's stance, they also raised their hands in support of Yi Qinghan. In the end, Yi Qinghan received 11 votes. However, there were 22 sacred grounds. If he wanted to enter, he needed at least 12 votes. He was still 1 vote short. As for the other sacred grounds, Yi Qinghan didn't know a single one of them. They hadn't expressed their stance yet. This meant that they didn't care about the Holy Empire, Sky-Piercing Sect, Blessed Buddha Temple, and Oshi Sacred Ground. They were independent sacred grounds and needed to consider their own interests. Everyone, you must think carefully. One more person entering means one more change. This person is meticulous and his cultivation is not bad. He is enough to pose a threat to the holy sons and holy daughters. If you let him in, you'll be giving up on the immortal herb. Oshi's sacred grounds, Aster warned in a cold voice. This warning had great destructive power. The other sacred grounds who were still hesitating instantly expressed their stance. The Guyuan sacred ground opposes Yi Qinghan entering the secret realm. The immortal spirit's sacred ground opposes. The extreme emperor bloodline opposes. The 3 sacred grounds expressed their stance, once again leveling the opposition. The chances of Yi Qinghan entering the secret realm again were almost 0. Currently, only 22 sacred grounds had expressed their stance. Less than half of them had expressed their stance. Xia Zhilong, Wensu, and the others looked at each other with displeasure in their eyes. Yi Qinghan, however, smiled coolly. He turned to Wensu and said respectfully, "Senior, I wonder if you could have the left sentinel of the Sky Demon Cult, Lord Fazhen and Demon Sovereign express their stance?" Although the Sky Demon Cult's saint had been missing for many years, everyone knew that the Sky Demon Cult was a sacred ground. And since it was a sacred ground, it naturally had the right to vote. Nonsense. The Sky Demon Cult exists in name only, and the Sky Demon Cult's saint has been missing for who knows how many years. The Sky Demon Cult is no longer a sacred ground, and even if it was, it wouldn't be Lord Fazhen and Demon Sovereign's turn to represent it. Oshi's sacred grounds, Aster promptly rebuked. "You mean, the Sky Demon Cult is dead? That the supreme saint of the Sky Demon Cult has been destroyed?" Xia Zhilong's eyes were brimming with a smile, but his expression remained cold as he questioned indifferently. The 3 deans of the sky-reaching cult looked at each other and nodded. The 9 Extremes Taoist was gone in a flash, directly bringing the sealed Lord Fazhen and Demon Sovereign before the crowd, breaking the seal on him with a wave of his hand. The Lord Fazhen had been paying attention to what was happening, and his eyes were now filled with cold flames as he glared at Aster. "Aster, the Sky Demon Cult almost broke into your lair all those years ago. Are you provoking us now?" Chapter 1889. Although Lord Fazhen was old, his aura was still there. Aster looked at Lord Fazhen with disdain and sneered. Lord Fozhen, you are already old. Do you think I would have been afraid of you in the past? Do you think you can still be as fierce as you were in the past? Moreover, the heavenly demon cult has already disbanded. Those bastards have either fled or died. The remaining ones have already gone into hiding and don't dare to show their faces. Lord Fashion's face turned pale. In his heart, he could humiliate himself, but not the heavenly demon cult. That was where his faith lay. It was his faith that kept him alive and kept him unwilling to die. Am I wrong? A bunch of ants struggling at death's door. Without the Supreme Lord Eternal, what are you? Aster's words were sharp as he scolded coldly. At this moment, even Yi Qinghan was filled with anger. This Aster was too insulting. However, no sacred land was willing to speak up for the heavenly demon cult. As the saying goes, everyone kicks a man who is down. Now that the heavenly demon cult had collapsed, the cult members were scattered. Lord Fozhen alone was too weak. My lord will return sooner or later. Lord Fozhen was powerless to refute and could only comfort himself. Ha ha ha! Aster and the other sacred lands mocked, not giving him any face. At this very moment, the sky-reaching cult that was at odds with the heavenly demon cult felt pity for this dying old man. The age of Lord Fozhen was really too long. It was not an exaggeration to say that he was past his prime. His battle strength back then could be compared with the young Eternal One. Now the gap was too big. Even when Su could not defeat him, Lord Fozhen was even older. After being suppressed by the 9 extremes Taoist, his old age and powerlessness were even more obvious. He was an arrow at the end of its flight and only had a pitiful amount of strength left. Gotcha! Yi Qinghan clenched his fists and said disdainfully, Aster, trash like you can only defeat an old man. What right do you have to mock Lord Fozhen? To me you're already old. As long as I reach the upper realm, I can crush you like an ant. Now that you're mocking Lord Fozhen, you'll be mocked by the younger generation in the future. A wisp of killing intent flashed in Aster's eyes, which made Yi Qinghan's hair stand on end. However, Aster couldn't do anything to him as he had the 3 deans of the transcending heaven cult by his side. Are you angry from embarrassment? You can only be angry for now. It would be best if you can stop me from entering the Shrouding Sky secret realm. If you can't, I will make sure that none of the younger generation of the Oshi sacred ground can come out. Yi Qinghan said aggressively as if he was venting his anger for Lord Fozhen. The corners of Aster's mouth curled into a sneer, and he retorted disdainfully, You want to destroy the 4 holy sons and holy daughters of my Oshi holy land. So what if I give you the strength of a middle-level cultivator? But you don't dare to let me in. Yi Qinghan took advantage of the situation to provoke him. Aster didn't fall for it and said indifferently, Provocation can work on a young man like you, but it's too retarded to deal with an old man like me. Yi Qinghan was helpless. This Aster was stubborn and didn't admit that the heavenly demon cult was a sacred ground. He also didn't admit that Lord Fozhen could represent the heavenly demon cult, so he could only look at the 3 deans and Xia Zhilong. Xia Zhilong sneered and stepped forward. His dragon robe fluttered and he looked dignified. His eyes swept around and he said in a deep voice, A sacred ground is a sacred ground. It's useless to argue. Everyone knows that the heavenly demon cult is a sacred ground. Unless Lord Tongning of the heavenly demon cult falls, the heavenly demon cult will always be a sacred ground. Even this crown prince recognizes it. What right do you have to not recognize it? What right do you have to blaspheme the supreme, eternal sovereign? Everyone's breath stagnated as they looked at Xia Zhilong. Although he was only at the peak of the middle realm, the pressure he exuded had the aura of an eternal sovereign. Even the upper realm masters didn't dare to act recklessly. The facts are in front of you now. Lord Fozhen is the left protector of the heavenly demon cult. He is above everyone in the heavenly demon cult. He can represent the heavenly demon cult and cast his vote. If you object, Then this crown prince will use the power of the 9 lords to vote. The 9 lords are equivalent to a sacred ground. So what if you all object? Xia Zhilong coldly shouted. Many powerhouses stared, not knowing how to refute. Although the 9 lords were not independent, it was a well-known fact that each eternal sovereign represented a sacred ground. The 9 lords were, in fact, the 9 great holy lands. Lord Fazhen looked at Xia Zhilong with a trace of gratitude, and his old body bowed slightly to express his gratitude. Xia Zhilong didn't care if Fazhen Demon Venerable felt grateful or not. This time, he spoke up for justice only because Yi Qinghan had promised him an eternal pill. Otherwise, even if the Western Oshi sacred ground killed Fazhen Demon Venerable, he wouldn't have said a word. At the entrance, after a long silence, Blessed Buddha Temple and Oshi sacred ground compromised and retreated to allow Xia Zhilong to open the entrance. Yi Qinghan turned around and left. Like a wisp of green smoke, he sped away, twisting and turning as he charged into the depths of the cave. The entrance was sealed again. At the place where the immortal herbs erupted, the experts drew their swords and fought. Blood swords filled the mountains and rivers. A true supreme was like a tiger among a flock of sheep, each strike reaping lives. Lin Wutian and Zhou Shuguang were covered in blood. They stood back to back, guarding the surroundings as they approached the valley where the immortal herbs were. At this moment, their faces were pale and exhausted. They had lost count of how many lower-level kings they had killed in this battle. "Can you still hold on?" Lin Wutian asked hoarsely. Zhou Shuguang held the painting scroll in his hand. It was as if 5,000 years of time in the secret realm could sweep away all life. At this moment, his aura soared to the sky, not losing to any saintess. "No problem, but it will be difficult to get the immortal herbs." Zhou Shuguang looked at the saintesses and saintesses. They had the least number of people and were at a disadvantage. The strongest were the people from Oshi Sacred Ground, Xia Yunchue's Holy Empire, Sky-Reaching Church's 3 great godsons, and Blessed Buddha Temple. The people from War Race were the most ferocious. Zhang Jiuxiao killed without any regard for his own life. Even now, he was still at the forefront. Dong dong dong. Ah! The sound of hearts beating was accompanied by screams in the depths of the secret realm. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Blade light and sword shadows covered the sky. This was a supreme's world. If one was not invincible in the same realm, death was inevitable. At this moment it was a chaotic battle. There were no standard opponents. Everyone wanted to force others to retreat and not let others get close to the immortal herb valley. Whoever was closest to it would die without a doubt. Lin Wutian held his sword with both hands. The sword light seized the sky and rushed into the clouds. The true green lotus sword song appeared. "Guard the back for me. I will attack and try to end this quickly," Lin Wutian said in a low voice. "Okay." The painting scroll in Zhou Shuguang's hand moved as if the secret realm was moving. Whoosh, whoosh. Lin Wutian's sword pierced through the shackles of mountains and rivers. His aura was like a rainbow, unstoppable. He approached the immortal herb valley at an extreme speed, shocking all the heroes in all directions. Chapter 1890. Whoosh, whoosh. Lin Wutian's sword was unstoppable. No one dared to block it, and Zhou Shuguang was behind him. No one could break through. Stop him. If he takes the elixir, no one can take it from him. The Arhat had been entangling Lin Wutian, but he couldn't stop him. The one who hated Lin Wutian the most was Yi Qinghan. He glanced coldly at your saint, then put a silver cross on his forehead. Holy light covered the sky. He didn't give your saint a chance to stop him. He pulled out his sword and stabbed at Yi Qinghan. Boom! 2 powerful auras shot up to the sky. This was a battle between the strongest. Achenrite's cultivation had at least doubled. His aura shot up to the sky, and his holy light crushed everyone. The two's earth-shattering killing moves twisted the space and time. They collided in an instant. Whoosh! Boom! The two swords collided. The holy light sword was a divine item. The one Yi Qinghan used was just a fake. But it blocked the sword Lin Wutian obtained from the tomb. Boom! A ray of holy light shot out in all directions. The green lotus at the tip of Lin Wutian's sword was shattered. His arm cracked and blood stained the sword. He couldn't help but fly backward. It wasn't that he wasn't strong enough, but that Auchenwright was the great saint of the Oshi Holy Land. He was the strongest of the younger generation, and he had used a forbidden technique. Puff! Lin Wutian's blood froze. He spat out a mouthful of essence blood and sprinkled it on the sword. The ground cracked under his feet. Die! Zhuo Shuguang switched places with Lin Wutian. He held the painting of mountains and rivers and suppressed Auchenwright. Although Auchenwright had pushed Lin Wutian back, his blood was in turmoil. He couldn't fight against Zhuo Shuguang. He could only block with his sword, but he couldn't push Zhuo Shuguang back. Yer Saint was dissatisfied with Auchenwright's decision, but she had to say to the other three great saints, "Save him." Then, the three young people beside Yer Saint drew their swords and attacked Zhuo Shuguang. Their combined power was stronger than any saint or saintess. Boom! The landscape painting was as beautiful as a fairyland. It bathed in immortal light and was extremely powerful. However, Zhuo Shuguang had no choice but to retreat when facing the four holy sons of the Oshi Holy Lands. At this moment, the Arhat took advantage of Lin Wutian's stagnant blood to form a seal with his palms. Buddhist light soared into the sky as he smashed a Buddhist staff at Lin Wutian from afar. Whoosh! Just as the Arhat approached Lin Wutian, an eerie aura enveloped the Arhat. A cold sword light pierced through the clouds, and the Arhat felt as if he had fallen into an ice cave. He had no choice but to retreat to protect himself. Lin Wutian was also taken aback. He hadn't expected that someone would save him. However, he couldn't find the person who had saved him. That aura, however, was quite familiar to him. It's Uncle Yen. Lin Wutian was shocked. He didn't expect that Yen Yunbei, whom he had been looking for so many years, would appear here. Zhuo Shuguang was also shocked. His eyes flashed as he asked in astonishment, "You have a helper?" "It's a martial uncle from the crazy sect. He has been missing for many years. I didn't expect him to appear here at this time," Lin Wutian said excitedly. At this moment, the Arhat's expression changed abruptly. He glanced around but couldn't find the person who had saved him. However, he felt as if he was being watched by a pair of cold eyes. If he wasn't careful, he would die. What a powerful concealment skill! It seems that his control of space has reached the peak. Many of the Holy Sons' expressions changed. They hadn't expected another unforeseen event. Yen Yunbei hadn't shown himself, but the sword attack just now had shown that a middle-stage cultivator could be killed. Huff huff huff! Dong dong dong! Everyone was panting heavily. Their hearts were beating wildly, and their faces were flushed. They were all very tired. In the battle of the King's Sword, the slightest carelessness could lead to death. At this moment, no one dared to be careless. Sage Ye looked coldly at Ahenlek and said in a low voice, "Ahenlek, I didn't expect you to be so reckless now." Sage Ye. Ahenlek's expression became extremely unreconciled. He didn't expect that his sword attack still couldn't kill Lin Wutian. Seeing the displeasure in Sage Ye's eyes, his hatred for Lin Wutian became even more intense. Sage Ye's golden eyes were filled with dissatisfaction. He said coldly, "Ahenlek, don't forget why we came here. This time, the ancestor has given us a secret weapon. We must bring the celestial medicine back. If you act impulsively again, don't blame me for being impolite." Ahenlek immediately became more obedient. He lowered his head and didn't say anything else. Sage Ye stared at Lin Wutian and Zhuo Shuguang. He didn't expect such a powerful existence to suddenly appear in the secret territory. It had a fatal impact on his snatching of the celestial medicine. Xia Yunxue, the three godsons, and the prison guard were hesitant at this moment. They definitely couldn't join forces. They didn't want to share the celestial medicine at all. Where are the 9 prefectures? Xia Yunxue looked around and her voice was as mighty as a bell. Here. Hua! 9 figures flew over from all directions. The stars moved as if they were following a melody. Their divine robes had a dragon on them, but the dragons on them didn't have 5 claws. Xia Yunxue and Xia Zhilong's dragons had claws, while Xia Zhilong's robes had 9 golden dragons. This was a symbol of status. The 9 prefectures were the disciples of the 9 prefectures' eternal sovereigns, or direct descendants. Their cultivations were naturally on par with the holy sons. They weren't inferior at all. They were very respectful to the Holy Empire's imperial family. The Crown Prince's imperial uncle has ordered that when necessary, you must help me snatch the celestial medicine. Once you succeed, you will be handsomely rewarded. Xia Yunxue said in a deep voice. Yes, we obey the Crown Prince's order. The 9 prefectures didn't question or say anything. They said in unison. They didn't trust Xia Yunxue, but the Crown Prince Xia Zhilong. At the same time, the prison guard waved his hand. Wind and clouds suddenly appeared in the sky. Baleful aura and the aura of reincarnation enveloped the area. 9 puppets appeared beside him. Their eyes were emotionless. Even the aura of humans couldn't be felt from them. They weren't humans at all. They were just puppets that didn't fear death, but their cultivations were at the middle realm. You're cheating. The experts angrily rebuked. This is only my weapon. How is this cheating? The prison guard coldly retorted. Using souls to refine slaves, reincarnation as the body, death as the mind. What a grand move. 9 middle realm cultivators, 9 divine weapons. Amitabha, hell isn't afraid of being punished by the world for what it has done? The Arhat looked like he bemoaned the heavens and pitied the fate of mankind. Buddhist light enveloped him, and his aura soared to the sky. What AF** King retard? Has he become an idiot from cultivating Buddhism? The prison guard angrily cursed. The corners of the sacred ground's mouths seemed to twitch. They were extremely disdainful of the Arhat's words. Did this Arhat really have a Buddhist heart, or was he too engrossed in his act? Did he really think he was a Buddha? The Arhat was furious. He waved his hand, and the golden altar rushed out with Buddhist light. It seemed like it could absorb all the filth in the world and completely convert it. You hell are too cruel. Don't tell me you don't even allow me to say a word? The Arhat was furious. Bulsh *t. Go back and ask your father. Which of the things your blessed Buddha temple has done are clean? Which of them can be released to the world? The prison guard was enraged. He pointed his sword at the Arhat and sneered. What I admire the most in my life is you bunch of Buddhist holy monks. Not only do you deceive the world, you even deceive yourselves. And you're so serious that it makes me feel ashamed. Ha ha, the people who hated blessed Buddha temple the most were the people from the war tribe. Zhang Jiuxiao actually couldn't hold it in and suddenly laughed out loud. The Arhat's face turned red from the laughter. His killing intent soared to the sky. But at this time, Lin Wutian's focus wasn't on this group of people. Instead, he turned to look at the path they came from. The divine bird also jumped out of his body and laughed. Ha ha ha, I knew it. How could this kind of thing lack people like him? Chapter 1891. The journey was long, and Yi Qinghan was like a beam of green light, approaching with a wooden sword in his hand. Boom! Yi Qinghan was like an agile monkey, traversing mountains and ridges. He took the greatest risk and traveled the shortest distance. It took him several decades to reach this place. He had consumed countless divine pills and elixirs, but he still managed to catch up. Seeing the holy lights soaring into the sky and the Supreme Kings fighting, he sped up again. Whoosh! Boom! Yi Qinghan stomped on a boulder and leaped several hundred meters into the air. The golden monkey on his shoulder squeaked loudly, seemingly very excited. In the distance, Lin Wutian's eyes narrowed as he saw a figure speeding away. A smile appeared on his face, and the pressure on him was reduced by half. The divine bird was even happier. It laughed and said, "Good people don't live long, but scourges live for 1,000 years. This guy is so badly injured, but he's still alive. What a pity!" Lin Wutian glanced at the divine bird and whispered, "Let's see how Master will deal with you if you say that in front of him." The divine bird shrank its head and smiled flatteringly. "I'm so happy that I don't know what to say. Please don't tell him." Yi Qinghan's speed startled all the heroes. They all turned to look at Yi Qinghan. "Another expert has actually come. He should be in the lower plane, right? Don't be ridiculous. How could a lower plane cultivator come here?" A few masters frowned and looked into the distance. They couldn't see Yi Qinghan's face because he was too far away. But judging by his aura, it would be unfair to say that he wasn't in the middle plane. Lin Wutian's sword aura soared into the sky, indicating his position. Yi Qinghan saw Lin Wutian's sword aura from afar. It was the sword aura of the Green Lotus Sword Song, and no one could imitate it. He sped up again and flew over the insane sect's camp like a rock spreading its wings. Although he couldn't fly, his physical body had reached the peak. This little bit of impact made him look even more domineering. Everyone's pupils constricted as they watched Yi Qinghan jump down from a 100-meter-high mountain like a pervert. It was as though he was flying, and it made their hair stand on end. He really is a lower-level cultivator. The chief disciple of a powerful sect who was closest to Yi Qinghan said in astonishment. Whoosh! In an instant, Yi Qinghan's appearance caused a huge uproar. Boom! Yi Qinghan shuttled through the crowd. Fortunately, no one tried to stop him. He rushed directly to Lin Wutian's side, panting. After so many years of running, he was probably the most tired one. Dong dong dong! Yi Qinghan's heart was as powerful as a dragon's. Hoo! Yi Qinghan exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. He looked at Lin Wutian and Zhou Shuguang, who were standing in the crowd together. He hurriedly asked, "What's the situation now?" "The celestial medicine has appeared, but no one has gotten it yet. I will join hands with Taoist Zhou and split it 70-30. Lin Wutian looked at Yi Qinghan excitedly. He always felt that when he saw Yi Qinghan, he would know what to do. Yi Qinghan nodded and glanced around. He found that many people were hostile and murderous towards him and Lin Wutian. "Oh right, Uncle Yen is here," Lin Wutian said hurriedly. Yi Qinghan looked around and didn't see Yen Yunbei. However, he could feel a pair of eyes staring at him, so he nodded silently. At this time, the divine bird looked at the golden monkey on Yi Qinghan's shoulder and suddenly became jealous. It flew to Yi Qinghan's side and scolded him condescendingly. "Where did you come from, little monkey? This shoulder is mine. Get lost." Squeak, squeak, squeak. Hiss, hiss, hiss. The little golden monkey looked at the divine bird and suddenly bared its fangs and claws, as if it wanted to eat the divine bird. The divine bird was shocked and quickly ran to the other side. It scolded Yi Qinghan angrily. "Come here if you have the guts. I will beat you to death." Squeak, squeak. The little golden monkey was furious. It grabbed Yi Qinghan's collar with one paw and reached out with the other paw to grab the divine bird. Whoosh! Plop! A few feathers of the divine bird were torn off, and it screamed in pain. "How dare you hit this divine bird? Brothers, come out and avenge me!" Whoosh! 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 The colorful snake, the little golden crow, and the star-twining vine rushed out of Lin Wutian's bloodline at the same time and transformed into their original forms. They all glared at the little golden monkey. Yi Qinghan shook his head. He didn't have much time to play with them. He changed his attitude and said coldly, "Stop messing around for now. I still have business to attend to." Suddenly, these spiritual pets didn't dare to mess around anymore. They ran steadily to Yi Qinghan's shoulder. Lin Wutian cancelled the contracts with Yi Qinghan's spiritual pets and formed a contract with Yi Qinghan again. Then, he returned to Yi Qinghan's body. Yi Qinghan held a piece of jade that Wen Su had given him. He glanced around and said in a deep voice, "I wonder which one of you is the godson of the sect of Tongtian?" The godson was stunned. He didn't expect Yi Qinghan to take the initiative to look for him. He stepped forward and said, "Yes, I am. What can I do for you, Sect Master Yi?" Yi Qinghan threw the jade pendant that Wen Su had given him to the godson. "Senior Wen Su asked me to give you this jade pendant. He said that you will know what to do after seeing this jade pendant." The godson looked at the jade pendant and his expression changed slightly. He didn't understand what the sect master wanted to do. The other two experts also saw the jade pendant. Their eyebrows twitched. The godson of the Hong sect asked, "I wonder if the sect master has any other orders?" Yi Qinghan immediately said seriously, "I have already discussed with the Crown Prince of Central Earth and the seniors of Hell, sect of Tongtian, and Battle Race. You will cooperate with me to seize the celestial medicine. As for the distribution of benefits, you can ask your seniors when you go out." Zhang Jiuxiao, the three godson, Prison, and Xia Yunxue were stunned. They didn't understand why their seniors wanted them to cooperate with a low-level rookie to seize the celestial medicine. In fact, Yi Qinghan was just fooling them. What Xia Jiulong and the others meant was that everyone should seize the celestial medicine. If Xia Yunxue and the others obtained the celestial medicine, the people of the insane sect couldn't snatch it. If the insane sect obtained the celestial medicine, they would each take a eternal pill. When did they let these saints and princes assist Yi Qinghan? However, Yi Qinghan's serious deception didn't look like he was lying. Zhuo Shuguang's expression changed. Yi Qinghan cooperated with so many holy lands at once. If he obtained the celestial medicine, how could he have a share? Sect Master Yi, I have reached an agreement with fellow Taoist Lin in advance. It doesn't seem right for you to change your attitude now, does it? Zhuo Shuguang asked in a neither servile nor overbearing tone. Yi Qinghan sucked in a breath of cold air. Each of the 4 holy lands had an eternal holy pill. 4 of them had already been used, so there were only 5 left. Since he had promised Zhuo Shuguang, he couldn't go back on his word. He nodded and said, "What I promised you naturally counts. If we join forces, we will definitely get the celestial medicine. After we refine the celestial medicine, fellow Taoist Zhuo will get one." Good. Zhuo Shuguang was very straightforward. If he couldn't get the celestial medicine after joining forces with so many people, then it would be too ridiculous. Since he was sure to get the celestial medicine, 1 eternal holy pill was enough. Yi Qinghan smiled slightly. If he divided 5 celestial medicines, he would still get 4. This way, the insane sect wouldn't lose any elite. It was a good deal. At this time, the one whose expression changed the most was Ye Sheng of the Oshi Holy Land. She came here with a secret weapon to seize the celestial medicine. However, the arrival of Yi Qinghan made the eastern forces reach an agreement. Attack! Yi Qinghan didn't give others time to think. He clenched his iron fist and rushed towards the celestial medicine. Chapter 1892. Yi Qinghan was the first to charge into the immortal herb valley. Tens of thousands of vines extended from his body and swept in all directions. Lin Wutian and Zhuo Shuguang attacked from the sides, clearing away all obstacles for Yi Qinghan. The godchild looked at the jade pendant in his hand and said, "This jade pendant is real. It looks like he didn't lie. Cooperate with him." Whoosh! The three godchildren were definitely peak supremes. When they worked together, they were invincible. They took the lead in slaughtering the experts of the blessed Buddha temple and the other holy lands. Xia Yunxue said to the 9 godchildren, "Yi Qinghan wouldn't dare to lie to us. Since the benefits have been distributed, we believe in the Crown Prince's decision. Cooperate with him to get the immortal herb." Yes. The 9 godchildren and their guardians charged towards Yi Qinghan. Anyone who dared to stop them was stopped. For a short time, no one could get close to Yi Qinghan. Jailer and Zhang Jiuxiao attacked in order to cooperate with Yi Qinghan. Boom boom boom. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The saints and saintesses of the Holy Lands attacked with all their might. In an instant, the world was filled with colorful colors. It was so beautiful that it could steal one's soul. The lower realms all avoided it, not daring to get involved. Jacques stared at Yi Qinghan, who had suddenly appeared in the distance, and said in a deep voice, "Stop him." Yes. Auchenwright, the other 4 saint children, and a few other experts rushed towards Yi Qinghan, using forbidden techniques as their ultimate moves. Holy light covered the sky, and the Holy Cross turned into a towering object, cutting through the void and pressing down on Yi Qinghan. At this time, a golden staff appeared in Yurishing's hand. It was only the size of a palm. There was a green gem embedded at the top of the staff. It emitted an indescribable order and mystery. "Almighty Father God, please grant me the power to restrict all living things in this world. The land bathed in holy light is your domain. Within this domain, the staff of power will grant me supreme authority." Yurishing's body emitted holy light. The green gem instantly exploded and mixed with the holy light. Like an immortal herb, the holy light spread out in all directions. The light of the staff of power enveloped everything within 1,000 miles. Whoosh! Many people fell from the sky. Their expressions changed. "This is the staff of power. Damned Oshi Holy Land!" He had actually taken out an eternal sacred artifact. "Do you want to die?" Saint Sun Dongfang and the other holy maidens cursed, but they couldn't use the slightest bit of divine power in their bodies. It was as if they had become immortal. His body felt warm and indescribably languid. Yar Saint looked down at the heroes as if he was looking at ants and said in a crisp voice, "Everyone, as long as you don't resist, I will spare your lives." At this moment, the cultivations of Xia Yunxue, the 3 godsons, and Jailer were all suppressed. However, Jailer's 9 prison slaves still had more than 50% of their original strength. This was because they weren't humans at all, but weapons. Yi Qinghan's body sank, as if he was carrying 1,000 jin. His movements slowed down and he couldn't help but be shocked. He turned his head and saw Yarshing standing proudly in the air with the staff of authority in his hand. He had turned this 1,000 li of land into a domain that no one could contend against. The people of the Oshi Holy Land were like wolves in a flock of sheep, constantly killing the experts of the strong sex and only seriously injuring the people of the Holy Land. Auchenwright locked his gaze on Lin Wutian, his eyes filled with killing intent. He drew his sword and rushed over. At this moment, Lin Wutian's cultivation was sealed, and he could only use his body. No matter how strong his sword Dao was, without the support of divine power, it would be difficult for him to use even 1/10,000th of its essence. He looked at Auchenwright's peak sword and his expression changed greatly. Zhuoshiguang's mountain river painting scroll's power was withdrawn into his body, and he couldn't use it at all. He could only watch as Auchenwright attacked Lin Wutian. Yi Qinghan was furious. He pulled out the wooden sword from his bosom, and a green light flashed. It actually tore apart the light emitted by the Staff of Eternity, forming a small domain. Yi Qinghan's battle strength had actually recovered to its peak state. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan's momentum was like a rainbow as he counterattacked and killed Auchenright. Auchenright didn't expect that someone could use divine power under the power of the Staff of Authority. He couldn't help but be shocked. He quickly flew away, and a wisp of sword light shot towards Lin Wutian's throat. Lin Wutian didn't have the protection of divine power, so he could only rely on his sword Dao and his body. The sword light swept across and blocked the sword light, but it was swept away by the energy and sent flying hundreds of meters away. Boom! Lin Wutian's body slammed into the mountain, and his soul was almost shattered. His expression suddenly changed, but the people of the Oshi Holy Land wanted to kill him quickly. Several lower plane cultivators rushed towards him at the same time. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed with murderous intent. The wooden sword flew out of his hand and stabbed towards Lin Wutian. Wutian, take this sword. It can help you recover your strength. Whoosh, boom! The wooden sword broke through the shackles in an instant, and stabbed into the mountain beside Lin Wutian's right hand. Lin Wutian reached out and pulled out the wooden sword. The wooden sword might be as heavy as 1,000 pounds for others, but he was a pure descendant of the Green Lotus sword song. His sword Dao was deeply recognized by the wooden sword. In an instant, his strength recovered to its peak and even surpassed everything. Whoosh! The sword light swept across, and the 4 lower plane cultivators who surrounded him were directly destroyed. The sword light shattered their bodies and souls into powder. Boom! Lin Wutian held the wooden sword, and his aura was like a rainbow. His eyes flashed coldly, and he roared, "Auchenright, you will die today." Auchenright was shocked. He didn't expect Yi Qinghan to have an eternal sacred weapon that could contend with the Staff of Power. Impossible. It's just a wooden sword. Auchenright was terrified. He wasn't Lin Wutian's opponent. Using a forbidden technique, he could only injure Lin Wutian. Now that Lin Wutian had an eternal sacred weapon, he was even less likely to be his opponent. Auchenright didn't have the courage to fight against Lin Wutian, who had an eternal sacred weapon, so he fled towards Yar Saint. "Yar, save me!" Whoosh! Lin Wutian put his palms together and held the wooden sword. The Green Lotus sword song evolved into a shocking sword Dao, piercing through the shackles and directly attacking Auchenright's back. Although Yar Saint was dissatisfied with Auchenright's repeated disobedience, he was still the strongest holy son of the Oshi Holy Land. How could he not save him? Whoosh! The Staff of Power swayed with holy light, and the green gem bloomed. Yar Saint stepped forward and blocked Lin Wutian's attack. The holy light barrier blocked Lin Wutian's peak attack. Boom! The sword chi and the barrier collided, and neither side gave way. "Get out of my way!" Lin Wutian was really angry. He had to kill Auchenright. "Fellow Taoist Lin, give me some face." He was wrong this time. "Once we leave the secret territory, I will give you an explanation." Yar Saint's face was solemn. He didn't seem to want to fight against Lin Wutian, so he only stopped Lin Wutian from killing Auchenright. At this time, only Lin Wutian and Yar Saint had divine power. However, the divine power of Auchenright's group was not suppressed much because the scepter of authority was made for the Eastern divine power system. "Wutian, don't tangle with her. Get the immortal elixir." Yi Qinghan had lost his wooden sword and only had his physical strength left. It was impossible for him to get the immortal elixir, so he could only warn Lin Wutian. Chapter 1893. Yi Qinghan roared angrily. Lin Wutian finally reacted. Auchenright could be killed at any time, but the immortal medicine only appeared once every tens of millions of years. Whoosh! Lin Wutian withdrew his sword and turned to attack the immortal medicine, but Yar Saint was unwilling. His figure flashed and blocked Lin Wutian. Boom! The Staff of Authority was bathed in holy light, suppressing all Daos. It was worthy of being an eternal sacred artifact. Bathing in holy light, All living beings couldn't even control a trace of divine power. The green lotus wood sword could tear through the shackles and operate normally. Sword light swept out, suppressing Yar Saint. Auchenright, don't kill. Go get the immortal medicine. Yar Saint was suppressed several times and could only remind the Oshi sacred ground's holy sun. At this time, Yi Qinghan erupted. His body was invincible, and his body was at the lower level. Moreover, he was invincible among his peers. He stomped on the rocks and dove down 1,000 meters, risking his life to rush to the other side of the cliff. If he fell, there would be nothing left of him. Squeak, squeak, squeak. The little golden monkey on his shoulder kept squeaking, beating its chest with its little paws. Its eyes were shining. Boom! Yi Qinghan soared into the sky. He actually relied on the power of his leap to travel thousands of meters. He stomped heavily on a mountain peak. There were still a few cliffs before he reached the valley where the immortal medicine was, but there wasn't enough distance for him to use his full strength. He could only rely on his spirit pet. Go, get the immortal medicine back. Yi Qinghan directly threw out the little golden crow, the colorful snake, the star-twining vine, the divine bird, and the little golden monkey. Some of the 5 divine beasts flew into the sky, while others relied on the rocks and trees to move. They were extremely fast. Yi Qinghan stood on the mountain, watching Auchenright sweep his sword in all directions. He roared, "Divine Eagle, fuse!" But the God-Eater Eagle couldn't fuse with Yi Qinghan. Under the holy light, it was as if it was separated from Yi Qinghan. Screech! The God-Eater Eagle screeched and rushed out, but it could only display the same power as an ordinary bird. It probably couldn't bear Yi Qinghan's weight. Take me back! Yi Qinghan wanted to use the godly eagle to return to the ground and restrain Auchenright and the other powerful holy sons. But before the godly eagle could even take to the air, Auchenright had already attacked with his sword. There's no need to go back. Let's be buried here today. Whoosh, roar. The sword whistled like a rainbow, deafening to the point of collapse. Auchenlecht charged forward with his sword in hand. The sword beams swept through the mountain rocks and ancient trees as it swept past Yi Qinghan's side. Boom! Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Yi Qinghan immediately recalled the god-devouring eagle back into his body and dodged in a panic. He almost fell off the mountain peak. In the end, he grabbed onto an ancient vine and barely dodged this sure-kill sword. Bang! Yi Qinghan immediately stepped onto a fulcrum and steadied himself. He watched as Auchenlecht arrived at the top of the mountain, and his eyes flashed with a divine light. Auchenlecht's lips curled into a sinister smile. He said quietly, "I'll kill you first, then I'll kill Lin Wutian." Yi Qinghan looked at Auchenlecht with disdain. A bronze bracer was wrapped around his arm, and his hand was protected by a golden divine copper glove. This was a heavy-duty defensive suit that he had made for himself. In a situation where he didn't have any divine power, he could still display the battle strength of a peak lower-level cultivator. "I'm afraid you don't have the ability." Yi Qinghan clenched his iron fist. His body emitted a majestic power that seemed capable of swallowing mountains and rivers. "Then let's try." This time, Auchenlecht didn't use any forbidden technique. Against a lower-level cultivator without any divine power, if he still used forbidden techniques, then he was truly useless. Roar! The holy light sword carried a majestic power that cut through mountains and rivers. The sword beam cut through everything and swept across the mountain peak. This indiscriminate attack didn't give Yi Qinghan any chance to dodge or escape. Boom! Yi Qinghan crushed the mountain rock. Not only did he not dodge, he instead charged towards Auchenlecht's body. Boom! Bang! Unfortunately, he was still a bit too slow. Before Yi Qinghan could reach Auchenlecht's side, the sword beam had already swept past him. He had no choice but to swing his iron fist and smash against the divine sword. Boom! The strength of his body exploded to the limit, fiercely colliding with the holy light sword. The sword beam was like a rainbow, spreading out in all directions. Ka. The rocks under Yi Qinghan's feet constantly shattered. A majestic power rose up from the ground and swam to his waist. He actually used his body to block the sword. Hua! The moment Yi Qinghan blocked the sword, his body twisted, and his slender iron leg swept out, directly approaching Auchinleck's body. If he wanted to win, he had to fight in close combat. Auchinleck was also shocked by Yi Qinghan's abnormal body. In a hurry, he only used 50% of his divine power, attaching it to his long leg, to forcefully collide with Yi Qinghan. Boom! Bam bam bam! The two separated in an instant, constantly retreating. The top of the mountain was only about 20 meters long and wide. How could it withstand such a collision? The two retreated to the edge of the cliff, half a step away from falling off the cliff. The battle here shocked the others. They didn't expect someone to be able to erupt with divine power in a battle. They all looked at Yi Qinghan, only to discover that Yi Qinghan was only relying on his terrifying body. Yarshing was doing his best to pester Yi Qinghan. He wanted Auchinleck to get the celestial medicine and quickly leave. Who would have thought that Auchinleck would run over to fight with Yi Qinghan? He immediately flew into a rage and said, "Auchinleck, my patience is limited. If you dare to cause trouble again, I will report to my master when I return and directly remove your position as the Holy Sun." Auchinleck's face suddenly changed. At this moment, he wanted to leave this place to get the celestial medicine, but Yi Qinghan was staring at him like a poisonous snake. If he dared to turn around to get the celestial medicine, Yi Qinghan would smash him off the cliff. "Yar! I'm being pestered by him." Auchinleck's hoarse voice was filled with helplessness. Boom! Lin Wutian attacked several times. Although he could suppress Yarshing, he couldn't break free. As for the other Holy Sons, it would take 3 to 5 of them to stop a lower realm Holy Sun. Without the support of divine power, they were just trash. Prisons, 9 great prisons, slaves blocked the other Holy Sons of the Oshi Holy Land. Although they couldn't crush them, they could at least stall them. Without the support of divine power, the death rate increased greatly. This was because some people's sword techniques had reached the point of perfection. Their attacks were sure to kill. Some middle realm Holy Sons died at the hands of lower realm Holy Sons. Now they relied on technique, because no one had divine power. If this continues, sooner or later we will all die. Quickly think of a way. Xia Yunxue said to the 3 godsons. What can we do? This scepter of authority is the symbol of the Oshi Holy Land's authority. Fortunately, she didn't bring the emperor crown. Otherwise, with the support of the 2, we wouldn't even have a chance to resist. Jieyard's master roared. Just as everyone was fighting, the divine bird, the multicolored snake, and the little golden monkey passed through the mountains and entered the location of the celestial medicine. Roar! A giant golden python appeared. It was as if it was about to evolve into a true heavenly dragon. Its aura was like a rainbow. It was definitely a vicious creature of the upper realm. When it saw the divine birds approaching, it let out a low roar. The airwaves directly sent the 6 divine beasts flying. Obviously, the huge python was the guardian beast of the celestial medicine. Chapter 1894. The golden python had been hiding in the immortal mountain all this time. Its long body was curled up like a mountain, and the power it exuded was even more terrifying than that of an upper-level cultivator. Roar! The giant python roared like a dragon, and with a light flick of its tail, the mountain collapsed and the earth cracked. Its tail was already far away from the valley. It's an upper-level golden python. Run! A roar woke everyone up, and they no longer cared about fighting. They scampered away, but without divine power, their speed was as slow as a turtle's crawl. The holy sons and holy daughters who were calm in the face of danger were also shocked. They weren't afraid of opponents of the same level, but against an upper-level golden python, they didn't have the strength to resist. Even without divine power, it could sweep away everything. Boom! At this time, Lin Wutian and Yar Shing clashed again, but they couldn't break through each other's defenses. The golden python has appeared. How about we join forces to fight it? Yar Shing held the staff of authority and said in a deep voice. Lin Wutian looked at the distant Yi Qinghan and Auchenright fighting to the death. They could fall off the cliff at any time, so he had no choice but to compromise. Yar Shing saw that Auchenright was still entangled with Yi Qinghan, and the anger in his heart grew stronger. His figure flashed, and he appeared on the mountain top. His golden eyes shot out a beam of light that directly enveloped Auchenright. Bang! Auchenright actually knelt down on the ground, not even having the slightest will to resist. Auchenright, I've given you several chances. Do you think I don't dare to kill you? Yar Shing coldly asked. Auchenright's face was pale, and he didn't dare to look at Yar Shing's golden eyes. His hands and feet trembled, and he didn't even have the courage to stand up. He said in horror, Yar, I thought I could kill this person in an instant, trash. Get lost. Yar Shing was the most terrifying at this moment. It turned out that her strongest point wasn't the staff of authority, but her eyes. However, she seemed to have a good impression of Lin Wutian, so she didn't use her golden eyes to deal with him. Auchenright was so frightened that he immediately fled from the mountain, quickly disappearing into the crowd. Yi Qinghan couldn't help but take a deep breath as he looked at Yar Saint's golden eyes. Only now did he realize that her eyes were similar to the scepter of authority. The most frightening thing was that her bloodline could actually suppress his own blood. Yar Shing glanced at Yi Qinghan, then said in a low voice, I really have underestimated the people of the world. They actually managed to resist Auchenright's peak power with their physical bodies. If I have the time, I would like to ask the two of you for some advice. Anytime. Yi Qinghan replied indifferently. Lin Wutian took a deep breath, held the wooden sword in his hand, and said in a deep voice, Master, I'll send you there first. Leave this golden python to your disciple. Yi Qinghan nodded. Without the green lotus wooden sword, it was impossible for him to contend against the upper-level golden python. Whoosh! Lin Wutian grabbed Yi Qinghan's large hand and quickly sent Yi Qinghan to the other side. Be careful. This is the green lotus wooden sword. It was forged with the blood of the creator of the Green Lotus Sword song for countless years. It is connected to the Green Lotus. Try to comprehend the sword intent of the Green Lotus. Perhaps you can suppress the golden python, but be careful of my spirit pet. Yi Qinghan whispered. Lin Wutian nodded respectfully, then quickly returned to Yar Shing's side, ready to join forces. The Green Lotus Sword Qi and the Green Lotus Wooden Sword soared into the sky. Yar Shing couldn't help but look at the youth in front of him. Before Yar Shing made his move, the golden python was stunned. Its aura was restrained, and it spoke in human language. Its deep voice was vast and mighty, deafening. Green Lotus Sword Song. This is the Green Lotus Sword Song. The powerful creatures of the Great Shang dynasty should know what the Green Lotus Sword Song meant. It was a kind of pure faith. However, the golden python didn't intend to leave the celestial herb. Instead, it raised its head and looked down at Lin Wutian and Yar Shing. It said in a deep voice, Human, for the sake of the Green Lotus Sword Song, I will spare your lives. Quickly leave this place. Just a small upper realm golden python. Do you think you are an eternal sovereign? Even if you are, you will have to retreat under my staff of power. Yar Shing was extremely domineering. The staff of power in her hand directly pressed against her forehead. Her eyes, together with the green gem, erupted with a terrifying power. It was overwhelming, like a surging flood. The will of the world was suppressed, and only her will was left in the domain. However, there was one person who ignored this terrifying domain. That person was Lin Wutian, who was holding the wooden sword. It wasn't that he was strong, but that the wooden sword was too terrifying. Under the stimulation of the staff of power, its aura became even stronger. Hum. Boom. Lin Wutian put his palms together, and a green lotus appeared. Since you know the green lotus sword song, then retreat. This celestial herb is mine, Lin Wutian said in a deep voice. Today, not to mention you two, even if the green lotus comes in person, I won't give up the celestial herb. As long as I have it, I can ascend to the celestial realm and surpass the eternal sovereign. Everything in the world can change at my will. The golden python shouted angrily. Attack! Yar Xing didn't understand what Lin Wutian and the golden python were talking about. She also didn't know who the green lotus sword fairy was. She only knew that she had to attack now. If she wanted to seize the celestial herb, she had to suppress the golden python. The two of them moved side by side. A suppression domain isolated the great Tao of heaven and earth. The golden python couldn't mobilize the power of heaven and earth. It could only rely on brute force. Hum. Whoosh. Lin Wutian's sword intent was like a rainbow. This sword, accompanied by green lotus, directly broke the void and attacked the golden python's vital point. Boom. 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 The golden python swung its gigantic tail and viciously smashed the two of them. Its body was even more monstrous than Yi Qinghan's. As long as they were hit, even if the two of them possessed monstrous divine power, they would still be smashed into pieces. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. The wind whistled and the air surged. In an instant, the space collapsed and the two were sent flying. This was the difference between heaven and earth. No matter how strong the divine weapons in their hands were, they couldn't resist the surge of heaven and earth. Boom. Yar Xing and Lin Wutian's bodies couldn't resist the distortion of space. They fell heavily to the ground and smashed in front of Yi Qinghan. They had no power to resist at all. Yi Qinghan's face changed slightly. Seeing the golden python swinging its huge tail again, he waved his hand and grabbed the wooden sword in Lin Wutian's hand. He put his palms together and his mind, accompanied by the wooden sword, merged directly with the green lotus sword fairy outside the secret realm. The two of them were like water and milk. Now, with the wooden sword as a medium, they instantly merged. Evil creature! How dare you go against my will? The green lotus sword fairy seemed to be able to see through the essence of illusion. However, these words were spoken by Yi Qinghan, who was inside the secret realm. They contained an unparalleled and eternal might. Bang! The golden python's huge tail fell heavily and smashed into the cliff. Its head was prostrated, and it was extremely respectful. Even the will to resist had disappeared. My supreme master, the golden python, looked at Yi Qinghan's current appearance. Its eyes were as if they had been stabbed blind, and golden blood flowed out. Yar Xing only glanced at Yi Qinghan for a moment before hurriedly turning her head. Her heart was beating uncontrollably. Dong dong dong. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Yar Xing was so scared that her face turned pale. Even the staff of power lost its luster and directly entered her blood. At this moment, Yi Qinghan stepped into the valley where the flying immortal elixir was. There was a small lake in the valley, and a golden lotus was blooming. This wasn't a flying immortal elixir. It was clearly a green lotus with the same root as the green lotus sword fairy. However, the green lotus had already matured, and the golden lotus was about to fly into the sky. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan subconsciously waved the wooden sword in his hand, cut off the root of the lotus leaf, and put it into his arms. The immortal light disappeared, and everything returned to normal. Chapter 1895. The wooden sword was psychic. Even if he was billions of miles away, Green Lotus Sword Immortal could still rely on the wooden sword as a medium to control the surroundings. With a deep roar, he could make the peak upper realm golden python submit. Yi Qinghan obtained the immortal herb and returned to his original place, causing Yar Saint to be extremely hostile. A thick pressure enveloped Yi Qinghan. The staff of power emitted an even stronger pressure, but Yi Qinghan's aura was even stronger. With the wooden sword in hand, it was as if the green lotus sword immortal had personally arrived. He looked down at Yar Saint. Lin Wutian stood beside Yi Qinghan, holding the divine sword in his hand. Although he had lost his divine power, his aura was still like a rainbow. Green Lotus Sword Song? What a powerful sword technique! Who is Green Lotus? Yar Saint asked in a serious tone. Yi Qinghan frowned, and his eyes flashed with killing intent. The news of Green Lotus Sword Immortal couldn't be spread. Yar Saint didn't know about Green Lotus Sword Immortal, but the Holy Master of the Oshi Holy Land, an eternal sovereign, definitely knew. He couldn't be sure if the Oshi Holy Land had participated in the battle back then, so he couldn't be sure if they had any enmity with Green Lotus Sword Immortal. The only fortunate thing was that after the golden python appeared, the others fled. No one saw Yi Qinghan summoning Green Lotus with the wooden sword as a medium. Otherwise, Xia Yunxue would have reported this to Xia Jilong, and Green Lotus Sword Immortal would have been exposed. Yar Saint saw the killing intent in Yi Qinghan's eyes and said indifferently, "You want to kill me? Do you think that's possible? I've been patient with Daoist Lin. Otherwise, do you think he would still be alive?" The wooden sword in Yi Qinghan's hand trembled slightly, and he whispered, "How do you know if you don't try?" After saying that, Yi Qinghan put his palms together, wanting to contact Green Lotus Sword Immortal again to kill Yar Saint. However, Green Lotus Sword Immortal didn't respond. He tried several times but still didn't succeed. Instead, a sharp aura came from the wooden sword that wanted to seize his life. At this time, Yi Qinghan recalled Green Lotus Sword Immortal's words. He shouldn't use the wooden sword if he could. It seemed that the wooden sword could only allow him to erupt with power once. Roar! The golden python let out a low growl as it glared at Yi Qinghan. It couldn't accept the fact that the celestial medicine it had guarded for so many years had been snatched away just like that. However, the golden python did not dare to act recklessly. It had truly felt the power of the Green Lotus Sword Immortal. Others might not recognize the Green Lotus Sword Immortal, but the golden python was so powerful. It must have lived for countless years and understood how terrifying the Green Lotus Sword Immortal was. Whoosh! Yarshing gently walked forward, her white robes as white as snow. Her golden divine eyes combined with her noble bloodline erupted with a supreme pressure. The staff of power was at its peak. Perhaps she didn't care about the wooden sword in Lin Wutian's hand, but she couldn't help but care about the wooden sword in Yi Qinghan's hand. This was because Yi Qinghan could borrow even more power from the wooden sword. Just as Yar Sheng was feeling nervous, Yi Qinghan suddenly waved his hand and hid the wooden sword. He smiled as if nothing had happened and said seriously, "Fighting and killing is boring. The golden python is still here. Let's find another place to talk." Yi Qinghan didn't dare to use the wooden sword again. Otherwise, it would suck his vitality dry. However, Yar Sheng didn't understand Yi Qinghan's situation. Seeing Yi Qinghan's change in attitude so quickly, she couldn't help but feel puzzled. However, since Yi Qinghan wanted to talk, it couldn't be better. "Let's go." The three experts moved as if they were flying. Lin Wutian and Yar Sheng could fly for a short period of time, but Yi Qinghan relied on his physical body to jump faster than flying. He rushed into the distance like lightning. At this moment, all the major forces had fled to the periphery. The golden python of the upper realm was not something they could contend with. The group of people from the crazy sect had also fled far away. Yan Yunbei returned to his position, protecting the people of the crazy sect as they moved closer to the periphery. A few days later, Yi Qinghan, Lin Wutian, and Yar Sheng appeared in a valley thousands of miles away. Yar Sheng and Lin Wutian were still very cautious, but Yi Qinghan looked relaxed. Yi Qinghan had been observing for the past few days and found that Yarshing's attitude towards Lin Wutian was indeed different. There was a hint of a smile in her eyes, so he knew that she had a good impression of Lin Wutian. Ahem. Miss Yarshing, since you also like Wutian, why don't we talk about it? Instead of fighting and killing for the celestial herbs, it's better to cooperate, right? Yi Qinghan rubbed his palms and said in a very low-key manner. Yarshing looked at Yi Qinghan in surprise. She didn't expect him to want to talk with her even though he had the advantage. Give up some of the celestial herbs? However, when she heard Yi Qinghan directly say that she liked Lin Wutian, she couldn't help but blush. Yi Qinghan looked at her performance and became more certain. Lin Wutian's mouth twitched. He didn't know anything about relationship. When he heard Yi Qinghan say so, his face turned a little red. He secretly glanced at Yarshing, and the two of them happened to be looking at each other. They quickly looked away and lowered their heads. Ha ha ha, young people like you but don't dare to say it. This is normal. I've been through it. I know that if you like someone, you have to fight for it. If you can't win it, you have to snatch it. If you can't snatch it, you have to think of other ways. If you don't even have the courage to confess, how can you say you like him? Yi Qinghan grinned. Master. Lin Wutian was a little speechless. He didn't know what Yi Qinghan wanted to do. Yarshing looked at Yi Qinghan awkwardly. She didn't expect him to be so straightforward. My family's Wutian is a dragon among men. He will definitely become an eternal in the future. Presumably, he is qualified to marry you. Moreover, I regard Wutian as my own son. If you are willing to marry me, I will give you an eternal pill as a dowry. Then we will be a family, right? What's the point of fighting? Yi Qinghan said straightforwardly. Yarshing restrained her powerful aura, restrained her vitality, and shyly bowed her head. For a moment, she didn't even know what to say. How could an inexperienced little girl like her resist the deception of an old fox like Yi Qinghan? Lin Wutian didn't expect that Yi Qinghan would sell her body in order to keep the secret and stabilize Yarshing. Master, you. Lin Wutian was just about to speak when Yi Qinghan interrupted him. What are you talking about? The Saintess is giving you face by taking a fancy to you. There are many heroes in the world. Have you ever seen her take a fancy to anyone? Now that she has made her attitude clear, why are you still so shy? Why don't you express your inner joy to the girl? Yi Qinghan suddenly reprimanded. Lin Wutian wanted to speak but hesitated. He looked at Yi Qinghan and then at the beauty in front of him. Yarshing was indeed a very beautiful woman. Moreover, the charm of Western women was completely different from that of Eastern women. Anyone would like such a woman. Yi Qinghan stretched out his hand and pinched Lin Wutian's back. Idiot! If I could kill her, would I still need you? Besides, winning over the Oshi Holy Land will give the Kuang sect a guarantee in the future, right? Now, the news of Green Lotus Sword Fairy cannot be spread. You must stabilize her for me. Oh. Lin Wutian's immature face showed a touch of embarrassment. He rubbed his hands and wanted to speak, but he was too nervous to say anything. Slap. Yi Qinghan slapped Lin Wutian on the back of his head, pushed him to Yarshing's side and said softly, Idiot, if you don't know how to speak, then do something. Hug her. Yarshing and Lin Wutian both cried out awkwardly, blushing. Chapter 1896. Lin Wutian staggered as Yi Qinghan pushed him into Yarshing's arms. The two hugged each other, not knowing whether to separate or not. Yi Qinghan grinned. Seeing that Yarshing did not refute, he knew that this woman belonged to the crazy sect. Western women had always been independent. They basically made their own decisions about marriage, unlike Eastern forces, where marriage was more likely. I am very generous to my daughter-in-law. Yar. Saintess, you are worthy of my child. I personally raised Wutian. I can guarantee his character. You two will definitely reach the top together in the future. Yi Qinghan was ecstatic in his heart, but on the surface, he just smiled boldly. Although Lin Wutian had been married once, it only existed in name. After all, the gap between them was too big. At most, he would only have a child after getting married. He rarely had close contact with women. Now, he was dizzy and almost couldn't stand straight. Lin Wutian was in a daze. Yarxing might have taken a fancy to Lin Wutian. Not only was he strong, but he was also extremely simple. He didn't have the arrogance of those disciples of big forces. Yi Qinghan looked at Lin Wutian's bewildered appearance. It seemed as if he had expected better from Lin Wutian. Yi Qinghan wanted to beat him up violently. If he had been in Lin Wutian's shoes, he would have pulled him up and whispered some intimate words of love. However, Yarxing could see that Lin Wutian was inexperienced. She took the initiative to hold Lin Wutian's big hand, bowed her head and said shyly, "I will follow Sect Master Ye's decision." Yarxing was very respectful, as if she was looking at her parents-in-law. Good, good, good. Ha ha. I will send this eternal pill to the Oshi Holy Land as a betrothal gift. Yi Qinghan said excitedly. Lin Wutian finally got used to it. He took the initiative to hold Yarxing's jade-like hand. Powerful qi and blood surged boiling hot. Immortal qi rushed into Lin Wutian's body. The two of them resonated with each other, their auras soaring to the sky. Yi Qinghan rubbed his hands and said embarrassedly, "Well, Saintess Yer, please don't tell anyone about Green Lotus Sword Deity and Green Lotus Sword Song, including your parents. This is a little secret of the insane sect, and it can't be exposed for the time being." Yarxing looked at Yi Qinghan and pondered for a moment. Indeed, he did not know what the so-called Green Lotus Sword Song and Green Lotus Sword Immortal were. After all, it had been too long. Perhaps even Xia Zhilong did not know. Only the Eternal Sovereigns knew, and some Eternal Sovereigns might not even know, because the matter involving Green Lotus Sword Immortal was too shocking. Green Lotus Sword Immortal was an existence that had killed Eternal Sovereigns, and Eternal Sovereigns were advocating that Eternal Sovereigns were undying existences. Once the matter of Blue Lotus Sword Immortal was exposed, the mighty image of an Eternal Sovereign in the hearts of the countless life forms of this great world would instantly collapse. I will listen to Senior's instructions, but I'm afraid that my Oshi sacred ground will not agree to only pay one eternal pill, Yarxing said in a serious tone. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath. The flying immortal godly medicine could only be refined into 9 pills. The Holy Empire of the Central Plains only had one, and the sky-reaching cult would definitely have to pay one. That was to redeem Lord Fazhen, Hell, and the battle race. Now that the Oshi Holy Ground had one more, and Zhou Shuguang had one more, there would only be 3 left. If he gave the Oshi Holy Ground one more, there would only be 2 left. 3 of them. Too little. Yi Qinghan exhaled a mouthful of foul air. He looked at Yarxing and knew that she was definitely worth more than one flying immortal divine medicine. "AI, who asked you to be my daughter-in-law? In addition, on the day of the wedding, I will give you another one. I really can't give you more. You also know that Zhou Shuguang has one each from the sky-piercing cult, the Holy Empire of the Central Earth, the War Clan, and the Hell. Including you, there will only be 2 left. There are so many people in my crazy sect, 2 is nothing at all." Yi Qinghan sighed and said. The Yar sacred lands were satisfied with obtaining one more eternal pill. At least, it was one more than the other holy lands. Presumably, the Oshi Holy Lands would also be satisfied. Many thanks, Sect Leader Yi. After returning this time, the Oshi Holy Lands will definitely vigorously support the crazy sect, Yarxing said excitedly. Yi Qinghan nodded. Looking at the 2 of them, he said, "Saintess Yarxing, although you are a saintess, there is a saying in the East that goes like this: marry a chicken and follow the chicken, marry a dog and follow the dog. There is also a saying that a son-in-law is half a son. My Wutian will consider your Oshi holy lands, but you must also treat the crazy sect as your home. Let's work together. The outside world is so big, our crazy sect will never encroach on the territories of other holy lands. However, I think this shrouding heaven's secret realm can become our headquarters. Yarshing was taken aback. She didn't expect Yi Qinghan's appetite to be so big. He wanted to monopolize the shrouding heaven's secret realm. Yi Qinghan smiled slightly and said, "Don't worry, this is just a plan. When Wuqian and I become eternal sovereigns, we will talk about this matter. As long as the shrouding heaven's secret realm is ours, the Oshi holy lands can come and go as they please. We will never treat them badly." Yarshing looked up at Lin Wutian's handsome face, her eyes full of emotions. Western women were so bold. As long as they liked someone, they wouldn't hide anything. "Wutian, what do you think?" Yarshing asked with a smile. Lin Wutian said firmly, "In this life, I will never let down the friendship between the crazy sect and Yarshing. With your words, I am relieved. I will leave this place first. Sect leader Yi, I will take my leave first." Yarshing released Lin Wutian's big hand and said respectfully, "Saintess Yar, the news of you obtaining 2 pills must not be leaked. Otherwise, I will not be able to explain it to the other holy lands." Yi Qinghan hurriedly said. Yarshing was naturally not a fool and nodded repeatedly. "Then you go ahead and wait for a while. I will say a few words to Wutian and let him leave with you," Yi Qinghan said calmly. Yarshing smiled slightly and quickly left. Here, only Yi Qinghan and Lin Wutian were left. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and handed the immortal medicine and wooden sword to Lin Wutian, then said in a deep voice, "When you get out of the shrouding sky secret realm, quickly take the people of the crazy sect to meet with Qinglian. She is the woman who took me away last time. She is waiting for you outside." Lin Wutian saw Yi Qinghan's dignified expression and immediately asked, "Where are you going?" Yi Qinghan smiled bitterly and said, "I promised the holy lands of the Central Earth and the sky-reaching sect that I would give them a portion of the eternal pills. If we take the immortal medicine, they will definitely not allow it. I can only stay here as a hostage." "Master, how can I let you be a hostage? You take the immortal medicine and wooden sword to Senior Qinglian. I will be a hostage," Lin Wutian suddenly said excitedly. Yi Qinghan slapped Lin Wutian on the back of his head and said in a deep voice, "Don't talk nonsense. If you go as a hostage, they will want it. Listen to me, take this Qinglian immortal medicine and wooden sword, find the people of the crazy sect, and quickly leave with Yarshing. After leaving the secret realm, tell them that I am still inside. The other holy lands will not embarrass you." Chapter 1897. Lin Wutian could only listen to Yi Qinghan. He had no choice but to take the wooden sword and immortal elixir, meet up with Yarshing, and leave side by side. Yi Qinghan watched the two leave with a smile on the corner of his mouth. His long black hair swayed in the wind, and his battle robe fluttered in the wind. Da-da-da! Yi Qinghan put his hands behind his back, and his 2 fingers kept rubbing together. His vigorous face revealed a trace of majesty, but also a trace of cynicism. It was so evil that it made people's hair stand on end. "If you want to get the immortal elixir, you have to pay a price. I'm not an honest person who can be bullied." Yi Qinghan exhaled a turbid breath and said to himself with an evil smile. The divine bird popped its head out and said flatteringly, "Master, is there a share of the immortal elixir for me?" "No." Yi Qinghan replied faintly. The divine bird. Yi Qinghan shrugged and said bluntly, "I'm not joking. You really don't have a share." "Ayo," the divine bird roared heartbreakingly, "I'm a loyal divine pet, handsome and dignified. For my master, I'm loyal and righteous. Who doesn't know the value of this divine bird? But now, I don't even have a share of the immortal elixir. How pitiful!" Yi Qinghan curled his lips, glared at it fiercely and said, "Do you think this father doesn't want to leave you a share? There are a total of 9 eternal elixirs. In the end, our crazy sect will only have 2. Who do you think we should give these 2 to? Won't you go back on your word?" The divine bird cried out, aggrieved. "Bah!" Yi Qinghan slapped the divine bird and said angrily, "If you have the guts, go back on your word with the sacred master of the Central Earth Holy Empire. Do you think I've lived for too long? War Clan. Hell Zhuguang's share, go back on it," the divine bird said in a serious tone. Yi Qinghan clutched his forehead in pain. He felt an inexplicable sense of helplessness when talking to the divine bird. "Sigh, I'd better think of a way to get some benefit. I can't get away with this unless I want to die." Yi Qinghan shook his head and slowly walked off into the distance. Inside the secret realm, it was a complete mess. Blood flowed like a river, and it would take tens of thousands of years to recover. A general success was built on the bones of 10,000 soldiers. However, for a king to appear, how many invincible experts in the same level had to be sacrificed? If these corpses were placed in a small place, they could be called a king, and become a feudal lord. Unfortunately, after they died, no one buried them, and their corpses lay in the wilderness. Yi Qinghan stepped on the corpses and did not do anything useless. Only the heavens knew how many people had died here. If he were to bury them all, he would not be able to complete the task even after a few hundred years. Along the way, Yi Qinghan was absent-minded. When he came across divine medicines, he would take them all away. Just like that, he walked leisurely. The group of people from the crazy sect had already left them behind by more than 10 years. There were also some small sects that did not obtain too many resources. They were still unwilling to leave, and were bitterly searching for divine medicines. Yi Qinghan looked at the group of young people who were busy under the leadership of a lower realm cultivator. The corner of his mouth revealed a pure smile. Once upon a time, he was also working hard like these ordinary people. When he obtained a treasure, he would be extremely happy. Sigh, the further you go, the more you see, and the more unsatisfied you are. In fact, as a mortal, it's not necessarily a bad thing to have simple birth, old age, illness, and death. Yi Qinghan said quietly. The practitioners from the small sects looked nervously at Yi Qinghan, afraid that he would suddenly attack. Yi Qinghan smiled knowingly and nodded to indicate that they did not need to be nervous. Then, he quickly left. The group of young people looked enviously at Yi Qinghan. Their eyes were full of envy and expectation. They whispered to each other. The female practitioners were even more exaggerated. Their eyes were full of little stars. They could not wait to follow in his footsteps and reach the peak. Outside the secret territory, Lin Wutian and Yursheng walked together. A group of people quickly passed through the crowd. Xia Zhilong and the others stared at Lin Wutian. As Yi Qinghan said, Lin Wutian had indeed entered the middle realm. Moreover, he was obviously stronger than the others, including Xia Yunxue and the 3 godsons of the sky reaching school. I really underestimated this group of people from the crazy sect. They are really abnormal. Xia Zhilong's fingertips trembled slightly. He stared at Lin Wutian's back. Seeing that he was walking together with Yursheng and that their relationship was not that simple, a cold light flashed in his eyes. He was somewhat dissatisfied. Everyone in the world knew that the battle between the East and the West had been brought to the surface. The representative of the East was the Central Earth Holy Empire, and the representative of the West was naturally the Holy Land of Oshi. Didn't this guy have a grudge against the Holy Land of Oshi? Why is he colluding with the saintess of the Holy Land of Oshi? Xia Zhilong frowned and muttered to himself. At this moment, Moz of the Hells stopped Lin Wutian and said in a deep voice, "Where is Yi Qinghan? My master is behind. If you have something to say, please wait for him to come out." Lin Wutian would not tell anyone that he had the celestial elixir. Even Yursheng did not know. The group of people from the crazy sect was very strong. Their fighting spirit was not inferior to that of the war tribe. Under the leadership of Ye-Shing, they quickly rushed out of the secret territory as if they were fleeing. The other holy lands and powerful sects did not chase after the group of people from the crazy sect. Their goal was the celestial elixir. Yi Qinghan was the leader of the crazy sect. The celestial elixir must be in the hands of Yi Qinghan. They might not be able to snatch it inside the secret territory, but it would be different outside the secret territory. At this moment, it was obvious that the other sects and holy lands were ready to snatch it. The people of the 100 great clans were slowly joining forces to snatch the celestial elixir. The saints and saintesses of the various holy lands walked out of the secret territory one after another. Some of their wounds had not healed yet. They were covered in blood and looked miserable. The holy land of Oshi brought the scepter of power in. This is against the rules. The Arhat was flustered and exasperated. He ran out and said angrily, "Whoosh!" This instantly angered the saints of the other holy lands. They finally found an excuse for themselves. It was as if they could get the celestial elixir if Ye-Shing did not bring the scepter of power in. When Xia Zhilong heard this, he was furious. This group of holy lands and powerful sects did not allow him to enter the secret territory, but the holy land of Oshi had brought the eternal sacred weapon in. Ye-Shing, stop right there. Oshi Holy Land, you must give me an explanation today. Xia Zhilong was angry. Heaven and earth trembled, and the arcane laws in the surroundings went out of control. The wind and clouds changed, and a tragic melody roared. The faces of the upper realm experts changed. As the saying goes, when the monarch is angry, the mountains and rivers flow in reverse, and corpses are everywhere. If Xia Zhilong was really angry, today's matter would not be so easy to resolve. Aster stepped forward and said coldly, "Xia Zhilong, everyone only said that the Middle Realm experts were not allowed to enter, but they did not say that the eternal sacred weapon was not allowed. If you have the ability, bring your eternal sacred weapon in, but do you dare? If the eternal sacred weapon is lost, do you have the qualifications to take responsibility as a crown prince?" Yer waved his hand and motioned for Lin Wutian to leave first. He slowly turned around and said indifferently, "Crown Prince Xia, although I brought the sacred weapon into the secret territory, I did not obtain the celestial elixir. Why are you angry at me?" Chapter 1898. Yer Saint was neither servile nor overbearing. Although there was a big gap between him and Xia Zhilong, he had the eternal sacred artifact, the staff of power, and a high-level bloodline. He might not lose to Xia Zhilong in a real fight. Xia Zhilong's face became cold, which made the upper-level experts tremble in fear. Xia Zhilong was the most likely person to become the next eternal sovereign. His advancement to the eternal sovereign realm was already set in stone. Once he got angry, everyone had to retreat. Yer Saint's golden eyes flashed with light, and he did not retreat. Xia Zhilong did not want to complicate matters, so he could only let Yer Saint leave. At this moment, Lin Wutian carried the wooden sword and the immortal herb. He did not dare to stay here for long. He quickly left the crowd with the people of the insane sect, and went straight to the periphery. As long as he met up with Green Lotus Sword Immortal, no one would be able to snatch the immortal herb. Now, except for the people of the Oshi sacred ground, no other sacred ground experts left. They were all waiting silently. Everyone knew that the immortal herb was in the hands of Yi Qinghan. As long as they killed Yi Qinghan, they would have a chance to snatch the immortal herb. Xia Yunshu hurried to Xia Zhilong's side and respectfully transmitted her voice. "Imperial Uncle, Yi Qinghan has a wooden sword in his hand that can contend with the staff of power." Hearing this, Xia Zhilong's eyes shone brightly, and the surrounding aura stagnated. At the same time, the three godsons of the sky-reaching cult also transmitted their voices to the three deans. The rest of the sacred ground's holy sons also transmitted the wooden sword in Yi Qinghan's hand to their leader's sea of consciousness. At this moment, everyone was even more reluctant to leave. Something that could contend with the staff of power must be an eternal sacred artifact. Snatch the immortal herb and the eternal sacred artifact. Where is Yi Qinghan now? Why hasn't he appeared yet? Xia Zhilong waited for a long time and asked in a deep voice. Imperial uncle, he is still inside. He should be coming out soon. Xia Yunxue immediately replied. Xia Zhilong thought for a moment and said to Xia Yunxue, take the 9 mansions and bring the people of the insane sect here. They are not allowed to leave for the time being. Yes. Xia Yunxue and the 9 mansions were equivalent to 10 holy sons. Once they joined forces, the 3 godsons, the Arhat, and Zhan Jiuxiao would not be their opponents. They rushed straight in the direction of Kuang Zong's departure. But at this moment Lin Wutian had already sped up with the rest of the crazy sect, shuttling through the cliffs and valleys, quickly disappearing from the periphery of the secret territory. A moment later, the green lotus sword deity appeared in front of everyone from the Kuang sect. Without much explanation, he swept everyone away without waiting for Yi Qinghan. Xia Yunxue led the 9 mansions to the periphery, but she could no longer find the whereabouts of Kuang Zong. In the end, she could only return resentfully. Back at the entrance of the secret territory, Xia Yunxue bowed and said, Royal uncle, the group of people from the crazy sect have disappeared. We can't find any trace of them. Xia Zhilong's dragon robes fluttered in the wind as his aura suppressed the heavens. Although his aura seemed restrained, Xia Yunxue and the 9 mansion lords felt as if the heavens were collapsing around them. They couldn't even straighten their backs. Although Xia Zhilong was at the peak of the middle level, only a minor realm higher than these holy sons, these people knew that even if the 9 mansion lords and Xia Yunxue joined forces, they still wouldn't be able to withstand a single strike from Xia Zhilong. The gap between them was just that huge. You dare to play tricks with this prince? Yi Qinghan, I'm afraid you don't have the ability. Xia Zhilong snorted and continued to wait. There was still 100 years before the secret territory's entrance closed. Small sects continued to come out one after another, but they still couldn't find any trace of Yi Qinghan. Everyone was burning with anxiety. This bastard, does he want to die in there? A powerful upper-level bounty hunter scolded angrily. The old monk of the blessed Buddha temple didn't move and said indifferently, Amit Bao, fellow Taoist, why are you in such a hurry? Since Sage Yar said that the immortal herb is in Yi Qinghan's hands, then it must be in his hands. He can hide for a while, but he can't hide forever. The 3 deans of the sky-reaching school were calm as usual. They waited calmly. It was rare for them to be this calm. At this moment, no one was more nervous than Demon Sovereign Fazhen. He knew best that once Yi Qinghan appeared, there would be a storm of blood. Yi Qinghan's life would collapse in an instant. Even Xia Zhilong wouldn't give him a chance to speak. Sigh, I'd rather you cultivate bitterly in the secret territory for 100,000 years. As long as you can endure the loneliness, at least you can keep your life. Demon Sovereign Fazhen clenched his iron fists and secretly prayed. While the 3,000 sects, 100 clans, and 21 holy lands were anxiously waiting outside, Yi Qinghan didn't seem to have any intention of going out. He was strolling around the secret territory. Under the guidance of the divine bird and the gold-devouring toad, he searched everywhere for treasures while humming a little tune. How long until the secret territory closes? Yi Qinghan curiously asked the divine bird. The divine bird was still unhappy. Such a good immortal herb, yet it didn't have a share. How could it face Yi Qinghan with a good face? I don't know, don't ask me. The divine bird unhappily threw out a sentence. Yi Qinghan smiled bitterly. He didn't expect the divine bird to have a temper, and it lasted for such a long time. In the end, he couldn't take it anymore and could only gently persuade it. Great divine bird, I promise that as long as you advance to the complete upper level, even if I have to steal or rob, I'll get you an immortal pill. How about it? The divine bird glared at Yi Qinghan and said firmly, swear that if you can't do it, you'll be impotent for the rest of your life. Forever. Yi Qinghan clenched his iron fists and almost punched it. This bastard was too vicious. You're lying to me. The divine bird snorted. Hiss hiss hiss. Yi Qinghan took a few deep breaths and calmed his emotions. He raised his hand and swore, I swear that when the divine bird reaches the complete upper level, I'll get it an immortal pill. If I can't do it, I'll be impotent for the rest of my life. When the divine bird heard this, it immediately took advantage of the situation and said with a flattering smile, Boss, look at how serious you are. I'm just teasing you. Huff huff huff. Yi Qinghan was so angry that his face turned red, and he breathed out a few mouthfuls of anger. Master, let's not stay here. It's only a few months before the entrance closes. If we don't go out, we'll have to stay here for 100,000 years. The divine bird quickly diverted his attention and reminded him. Yi Qinghan didn't have time to be angry. He began to move forward quickly and went straight to the entrance of the secret realm. At this moment, even the 3 deans of the sky-reaching cult had lost their patience. The old monks of the blessed Buddha temple couldn't meditate anymore. They had wasted 100 years in vain. Yi Qinghan seemed like he wouldn't come out. They hadn't even seen his shadow until now. Crack! Xia Zhilong clenched his fists and looked at the sparkling entrance. He really wanted to go in and beat up Yi Qinghan, but the entrance was about to close. Once it closed, it would have to wait for 100,000 years before it could open again. This was because this was the rule set by all the eternal sovereigns. No one could change it. At this moment, Lord Fazhen heaved a sigh of relief. But before he could feel happy, a figure appeared out of thin air and landed in front of everyone. His frivolous face carried a faint evil smile. He had a dignified appearance and a tall and sturdy figure. He stood in front of everyone like a javelin. His vigorous face was like jade, and he was definitely a dragon among men. This person was Yi Qinghan. The immortal pill isn't in my hands, Yi Qinghan said slowly without waiting for anyone to make a move. Chapter 1899. The immortal elixir is not with me. A single sentence was melodious and powerful, filling the surroundings. The overlords couldn't release the divine energy they had just mustered. They almost suffocated themselves to death, and at this moment, their faces and ears were all red. Xia Zhilong's clenched fists slowly loosened. Looking at Yi Qinghan's calm face, he really wanted to beat him up. You tricked me, Xia Zhilong said coldly. Yi Qinghan looked at Xia Zhilong, the 3 courtyards, and the upper-level experts of the sky-reaching school and shrugged. How can I say that I tricked you, seniors? You are all overlords of the sacred grounds, existences that can sweep through 10 directions. I'm just the sect master of the proud school. How dare I trick you? Where is the immortal elixir? The head of the Jie courtyard of the sky-reaching school asked curiously. It's in the hands of my disciple. But don't even think about the celestial elixir. I've promised all the Holy Lands that I'll give one to each of them, and I'll keep my word. The celestial elixir has already been delivered to a cultivator. She will help me refine the celestial elixir. Once the refinement is complete, Guangzong will personally deliver it to you. Yi Qinghan promised 7 sacred grounds. He looked at the eternal sword Tao sacred ground and couldn't help but shrug. He let out a turbid breath. It turned out that he underestimated one immortal elixir. If the eternal sword Tao sacred ground was included, the proud school would only have one immortal elixir left. Amitba. Yi Qinghan, did you not include the blessed Buddha temple in your plan? The immortal Buddha of the blessed Buddha temple asked in a deep voice. Yi Qinghan gently stroked his head and smiled bitterly. Seniors, all the holy lands, sects, and clans, please give up on the eternal immortal pills. I'll be honest with you. The Holy Land of the Sword Tao will get one, the Holy Empire of the Central Earth will get one, the Sky-Piercing Church will get one, the War Clan will get one, the Hell Tao Holy Land will get one, the Holy Land of the Central Earth will get one, the Sky-Piercing Church will get one, the War Clan will get one, the Hell Tao Holy Land will get one, the Holy Land of the Central Earth will get one, the Sky-Piercing Church will get one, the War Clan will get one, the Hell Tao Holy Land will get one, the Western Holy Land will get one, and the number 1 rogue cultivator, Zhuoshiguang, will get one. Yi Qinghan lied. Blue Lotus naturally wouldn't be interested in the so-called immortal elixir, but the Oshi sacred ground had too. However, if Yar Sheng were to marry Lin Wutian, it would be equivalent to the Kuang Zong getting both of them. At this moment, Blessed Buddha Temple was the angriest. Yi Qinghan had divided everyone except for Blessed Buddha Temple. This grudge was formed. Yi Qinghan looked at the greed and desire in the eyes of the hundreds of powerful forces and shrugged. I'm not a greedy person. There are a total of 9 immortal pills. I've given out 8, and the insane sect only has 1. I think everyone should be satisfied. After saying that, Yi Qinghan looked at the 3 deans of the Transcending Heaven Church and Xia Jilong. It seemed that he was implying that there was nothing he could do if they weren't satisfied. Now that Yi Qinghan was in his possession, his efforts to take care of Yi Qinghan were not in vain. He declared proudly, Sect Master Yi, from now on, Heaven's suppressing prefecture city belongs to the arrogant sect. Whoever dares to attack the city will be attacking the eternal Sword Tao sacred ground. I promise to fight back with all my might. Ha ha ha, I'm relieved to hear that. Yi Qinghan laughed. Humph. Xia Jilong snorted from his nostrils and said coldly, Since the celestial elixir has been taken away by your disciple, you will come with me to the Holy Empire. After you have distributed the celestial elixir to everyone, you can return to the insane sect. The battle race, Transcending Heaven Church, Hell, and the other sacred grounds nodded. They were clearly afraid that Yi Qinghan would take the immortal pills for himself. Then who will be responsible for the safety of the insane sect? Yi Qinghan raised his eyebrows and asked. Before you return to the insane sect, I will be responsible for it. Whoever dares to attack the insane sect will be attacking the Holy Empire. No matter who it is, as long as I find out who it is, I will lead the 9 lords to flatten them. Xia Jilong replied firmly. Count my battle clan in on this promise. Count the Transcending Heaven Church in. Hell also promises. Whoever offends the insane sect will be offended by Hell. No matter how far away they are, they will be killed. The Sword Tao sacred ground will have to promise as well. After all, the insane sect is part of the Sword Tao eternal sacred ground. In an instant, the 5 sacred grounds announced that they would protect the insane sect. The Blessed Buddha Temple's monks' faces changed and they all left. Yi Qinghan smiled but did not say anything. He knew that his plan was complete. Zhuoshiguang looked at Yi Qinghan, cupped his fists and said, Thank you, Sect Master Yi. I will stay in the insane sect for the time being. Whoever offends the insane sect will be offending me. Yi Qinghan nodded and smiled. Zhuoshiguang quickly left and headed south towards the heaven-suppressing prefecture city. Yi Qinghan looked at Wen Su, bowed and said, Senior, please release Senior Fa Zhen. After all, the Kuang sect needs a guardian. I will definitely not go back on my word for your elixir. Wen Su smiled indifferently. He was confident that Yi Qinghan wouldn't be able to renege on his promise. With a wave of his hand, he removed the restriction on Lord Fa Zhen. Lord Fa Zhen nodded at Yi Qinghan before leaving swiftly. After everything was settled, Xia Jilong quickly took out the flying dragon ship, and the experts of the Central Earth Saint Empire started assembling the other dragon ship. Soon, a gigantic flying dragon ship appeared in front of everyone, looking majestic and magnificent. Now that Yi Qinghan had been taken away by Xia Zhilong, the other holy lands and powerful sects could only watch and not do anything. If they wanted to take Yi Qinghan away, it would be equivalent to offending the holy empires of the Central Plains. Damn it, no wonder the Oshi sacred ground left without saying a word. They had already reached a consensus. The leader of the bounty hunters scolded. Who cares about promises in the face of benefits? The experts of the other sacred grounds sneered. They had lost a lot of people, but they did not get the immortal herbs. Who would be willing to accept this? The other sacred grounds left with a stomach full of resentment. They were all thinking about how to snatch the immortal herbs from Zhuguang and the insane sect. On the flying dragon ship, Yi Qinghan was leisurely sitting on a chair, looking at the majestic dragon ship flying in the sky. He was very envious. If the insane sect could also get a flying dragon ship, it would be great. How do you think these dragon ships can fly? Yi Qinghan pulled out the divine bird and asked curiously. The divine bird's mouth was full of saliva as it said, "What a treasure! If we could also get one, it would be so cool." The 9 great immortal mansions of the Saint Empire also had dragon ships, hanging on the left and right sides like wings. In fact, they were guarding the dragon ship in the center. There were many experts on the dragon ship. Unless an eternal expert came, who would dare to invade? Xia Zhilong gently shook his feather fan and slowly walked over. His dragon robe fluttered in the wind. His temperament was otherworldly, like the son of an immortal. Yi Qinghan, you planned this from the beginning. You wanted to use yourself as a hostage and let the disciples send the immortal herbs away? Xia Zhilong stared at Yi Qinghan. It was the first time he saw a young man who dared to play tricks on him. Yi Qinghan shrugged and did not even bother to get up. He said lazily, "When dealing with the sacred grounds, if I didn't pay attention, I'm afraid I would have died outside the secret realm. Isn't that right, Crown Prince?" The corner of Xia Zhilong's mouth twitched, but he did not refute. As Yi Qinghan said, if the immortal herbs were in Yi Qinghan's hands, he would not allow the immortal herbs to be shared. The Saint Empire would have to monopolize it. Unfortunately, he miscalculated. He was too confident in himself and underestimated Yi Qinghan. Chapter 1900. Xia Zhilong's eyes flashed like lightning as he looked at Yi Qinghan. His heart was on guard, as if he was a great enemy. However, Xia Zhilong did not say anything. He suppressed the dissatisfaction and anger in his heart, ready to explode at any time. The dragon boat soared into the sky, diving into the clouds. Beautiful mountains and rivers entered Yi Qinghan's eyes. Yi Qinghan sat at a corner of the dragon boat and looked down. He couldn't help but sigh. Such mountains and rivers were truly coveted. The vast and prosperous East actually belonged to the Central Plains Holy Empire. A single holy empire controlled the entire East. The divine bird looked at the misty mountains and rivers. It was incomparably excited and coveted. It could not wait to snatch it over. "Great Crown Prince, this divine bird has many merit. Please grant me a manor and let me serve you." The divine bird looked at Xia Zhilong and said flatteringly. When Yi Qinghan heard this, he almost fainted from anger. This bastard really betrayed him. The divine bird made a solemn vow. Unfortunately, Xia Zhilong did not like it. Instead, he glanced at Yi Qinghan and said indifferently, "If your master wants to rely on this crown prince, granting him a manor is not a problem." When the divine bird heard this, it was immediately discouraged. With Yi Qinghan's stubborn temper, he was willing to do anything but be a servant. Forget it, forget it. This divine bird does not yearn for a manor. The divine bird shook its head. Yi Qinghan sneered and did not reply. Xia Zhilong coldly looked at Yi Qinghan. His eyes flashed with a cold light. As the saying goes, half a sentence is like accompanying a tiger. As the crown prince, he was equivalent to half a king. Once he was angered, blood would flow for thousands of miles. Whoosh! The dragon boat danced in the air. It was as if a dragon was treading on heaven and earth. After flying for 3 months, the dragon boat's speed exceeded that of an upper-level cultivator. However, it was as if it was traveling on flat ground. Magnificent cities appeared before Yi Qinghan's eyes. They intertwined to form a huge, immortal manor, and there were as many as 9 such mansions in the Central Plains Holy Empire. Yi Qinghan's heart surged as he watched, his blood boiling. Who knew how powerful a king would be needed to conquer such a magnificent country? Half a year later, an even more magnificent city appeared in everyone's line of sight. Even from 1,000 miles away, the city walls were towering, and the dragon banners were swaying in the wind. It was as if an immortal spirit was high and mighty. Yi Qinghan stood up and held the handle of the dragon boat, his eyes flashing. This was the capital city of the Holy Empire of the Central Plains. It covered an area of 8,000 li, and every piece of land was a blessed land. The 4 city gates in the north, south, east, and west were over 10 zhang tall, exuding the vicissitudes of time. It was unknown how many years it had taken to reach this step. The capital was surrounded by 9 cities. Each city was like a roaming dragon, as if 9 dragons were on a pilgrimage. Yi Qinghan felt his blood boil as if it was on fire. Dong 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 dong. Yi Qinghan's heart was beating wildly, and his face was red. Perhaps only he could understand the emotions in his eyes. This was because he wanted to build a dynasty that could surpass the Holy Empire, an immortal dynasty. Oh my God, what a big city! There are so many treasures inside. The divine bird stood on Yi Qinghan's shoulder, as if it was a mountain villager who had never seen the world. No, it and Yi Qinghan were facing such a city. They were truly mountain villager. Da-da-da. Xia Zhilong appeared behind Yi Qinghan once again and said in a dignified voice, Yi Qinghan, this prince will give you one more chance. Submit to me and I'll give you a manor. Lord Crown Prince, I'm not interested. I'm used to being idle. I'd rather be an idle little sect master than a slave for eternity. Yi Qinghan lightly said. Xia Zhilong's lips curled up and he indifferently said, You refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Do you know the consequences of rejecting this prince? Yi Qinghan looked at Xia Zhilong and frowned. Lord Crown Prince, we are partners. Cooperation requires mutual consent. How can you threaten me like this? Ha 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 ha! Xia Zhilong's eyes flashed with a trace of sharpness. He seemed to be laughing in a forthright manner, but the cold glint in his eyes was frightening. Boom! The flying dragon boat landed at the western gate of the city. The western gate was filled with civil and military officials, noble families, and high-ranking officials. Welcome back, Your Highness! All the spirits neatly knelt on the ground respectfully to welcome Xia Zhilong. Hua! Tens of thousands of experts stepped out of the 9 smaller flying dragon boat. They were the strongest of the younger generation in the 9 immortal mansions. They were all handsome like jade, and their auras were like rainbows. They lined up neatly on both sides to welcome Xia Zhilong on the main dragon boat. Xia Zhilong stepped into the clouds from the dragon boat onto the main road. His dragon robe danced in the wind, and his footsteps echoed the rhythm of the mountains and rivers. Xia Zhilong flicked his sleeves and said, Men, capture Yi Qinghan. Lock him up and send him to the heaven-sealing prison. Xia Yunxue and the 9 mansions were shocked. They knew best what kind of person was locked up in the heaven-sealing prison. Would Yi Qinghan still be alive after being sent there? If he died, would they still be able to get the immortal pill back? Xia Yunxue hurriedly knelt on one knee and respectfully reminded, Lord Crown Prince, please reconsider. We haven't gotten the immortal pill yet. Your Highness, please reconsider. The 9 mansions all knelt and begged. They didn't want Yi Qinghan to die. It wasn't because they were friends with Yi Qinghan, but because they all had a chance to get the immortal pill. If Yi Qinghan died, they would have no chance at all. Xia Zhilong's vigorous face was filled with majesty. His eyes shone with a frightening light. His voice was as loud as a bell as he coldly said, "Are you going to defy this emperor's orders? Your nephew doesn't dare. Your subordinate doesn't dare." Xia Yunxue and the 9 mansions immediately became terrified and respectfully replied. Yi Qinghan stood on the dragon boat and stared at Xia Zhilong. He didn't expect him to not give him any face and directly throw him into prison. This was quite shocking. As expected of the future emperor of a country, you're quite decisive in your actions. Yi Qinghan didn't think about escaping or resisting. He didn't have any hope at the gates of the capital. Instead, he would suffer even more. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan stepped off the dragon boat. His white robe was like snow, and his handsome face shone with divine light. He was definitely one of the most handsome men in the world. At this moment, he was neither servile nor overbearing. He looked at Xia Zhilong and lightly said, "Your Highness, isn't it a bit inappropriate to treat a guest like this?" "Guest? You think too highly of yourself." Xia Zhilong was extremely domineering. He glanced at the mansions and Xia Yunxue and said in a deep voice, "Why aren't you moving? Do you want this emperor to do it himself?" Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The 9 mansions and mansions, as well as Xia Yunxue, quickly took out the shackles on their legs and hands. They were made of special materials, and were specially made to seal the legs and hands of middle-level cultivators. Only upper-level cultivators could destroy them. The chains dragged on the ground, making ear-piercing sounds. The outside of the city gates was completely silent. "Sect Master Yi, please cooperate with us. You won't be able to escape," Xia Yunxue said in a deep voice. Yi Qinghan slightly clenched his fists. He raised his hands and placed them in front of Xia Yunxue. He didn't have any intention of resisting. Ka. The 9 prefectures' Lord Manor's shackles were placed on Yi Qinghan's arms and ankles. Once the shackles were closed, Yi Qinghan's divine power was cut off, making it impossible for him to sense any profound laws. Chapter 1901. The chains were 5 meters long and weighed tens of thousands of pounds. Even Yi Qinghan's body felt extremely heavy. Yi Qinghan frowned and stared at Xia Zhilong. The two looked at each other, but Xia Zhilong spoke in an overbearing manner. "Yi Qinghan, don't think that you can do whatever you want in front of this emperor just because you have some ability. Those who dare to trick this emperor have not been born yet. Today, I will teach you a lesson. When you think it through, tell the jailers to come and inform me. If you don't, then die in the heaven-sealing prison. Kuang Zong will not be able to deny my elixir." What a show of strength! Other than Yi Qinghan, everyone else was silent. No one dared to go against Xia Zhilong's will. Yi Qinghan clenched his fists and stared at Xia Zhilong with narrowed eyes. His lips curled into a cold smile, but he did not try to anger Xia Zhilong at this time. However, some people thought that Yi Qinghan was blaspheming the crown prince of the Central Earth Holy Empire. They rushed up to attack. Like a hawk pouncing on a rabbit, their large hands were already in front of Yi Qinghan. Although Yi Qinghan was bound by chains, he moved like a cunning rabbit. He clasped his hands together and caught the incoming large hand. With a fierce push, the incoming person was forced to kneel on the ground. Crack! Yi Qinghan exerted force and broke the person's arms. He then raised his leg and kicked the person's chest, sending him flying hundreds of meters away. Boom! Pooh! The lower realm guard's chest caved in and his bones were broken. He almost vomited out his organs. His face twisted as he fainted on the spot. "Your Highness, if you want to humiliate me, at least you have to do it yourself. Otherwise, it won't be me, it will be you," Yi Qinghan said indifferently. Xia Zhilong's face was expressionless. He flicked his sleeves and left. Like a moon surrounded by stars, a large group of civil and military officials escorted him into the city. Outside the city, only Xia Yunxue and the 9 lords were holding Yi Qinghan captive. Xia Yunxue stared at Yi Qinghan and snorted, "Yi Qinghan, in my holy empire, even eternal sovereigns have to keep a low profile. Don't be too arrogant. Come with me, I'll send you to the heaven-sealing prison. If you regret it now, it's not too late." Yi Qinghan exhaled and said indifferently, "I would like to see the heaven-sealing prison. You refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit." Xia Yunxue angrily shouted. She pulled on one of the chains while the 9 prefectures each pulled on the other 9 chains. They firmly controlled Yi Qinghan's body, fearing that his body was invincible and would directly bind them. To have 10 saint-level powerhouses detain Yi Qinghan was an honor for Yi Qinghan. Who else in the world would receive such treatment? Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The chains dragged on the ground, creating an ear-piercing sound. The group quickly entered the capital. The capital was flourishing, and experts were as common as clouds. Seeing Xia Yunxue and the 9 prefectures detain someone, they couldn't help but be shocked. After seeing Yi Qinghan's face, they were even more shocked. He was so young and wasn't a peak king. Why would the 9 prefectures and Xia Yunxue personally detain him? Yi Qinghan's heart burned with anger. When he came here as a hostage, he didn't expect Xia Zhilong to treat him like this. It seemed that Xia Zhilong didn't just want the eternal immortal pill, but also the insane sex. Whoosh! The chain still made an ear-piercing sound, but Xia Yunxue turned and entered a desolate area. There were powerful guards all around, and rows of guards stretched out for thousands of meters. Xia Yunxue sped up. The 9 prefectures were practically dragging Yi Qinghan forward. After about an hour, the number of guards increased significantly. In front of them appeared a place similar to the entrance of the heaven-shrouding secret realm. It was covered in light, and inside the light was a small secret realm. By the Crown Prince's imperial uncle's order, take this person into the heaven-sealing prison and open it, Xia Yunxue said. The guard looked at Xia Yunxue and the 9 mansion lord, then looked at Yi Qinghan. He didn't hesitate. Xia Yunxue and the 9 mansion lord had extremely high statuses, so there definitely wouldn't be any problems. He waved his hand and removed the seal at the entrance, causing a crack to appear. Whoosh! The 10 experts dragged Yi Qinghan into the heaven-sealing prison, and the crack closed immediately. Inside the prison, it was a desolate place. There were mountains everywhere, volcanoes erupting, and tens of thousands of intertwining ravines. They were all bottomless cliffs, and if one fell, they would die without a doubt. Yi Qinghan looked at the so-called heaven-sealing prison, and only felt a sense of desolation and the beginning of the Great Tao. It was a feeling that no human had ever set foot in. He couldn't see the end of it. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan let out a breath of turbid air. Before he had time to look around himself, he was brought into the air by the 10 supremes, and went straight inside. One after another, large camps appeared before their eyes. One after another, mines were being mined. There was no telling how many experts were being held captive, and there was actually no lack of upper-level supreme martial artists. However, this group of people were all shackled, and there was a fundamental difference between them and the others. Yi Qinghan looked at the group of people below. The middle supremes didn't have the qualifications to be shackled, and only the upper supremes were shackled. Boom! The 10 of them brought Yi Qinghan to the center of a vein of ore, which immediately alerted the guards there. The guard was a middle-aged man, and his cultivation was at the peak of the middle supremes. Chapter 1902. Yi Qinghan stood up. Although he was attacked by Meng Fang, he was not seriously injured. Perhaps Meng Fang was worried that Yi Qinghan's physical body would not be able to withstand a strong attack, so he only used 20% of his strength. Meng Fang stared at Yi Qinghan and was angered by his words. He sneered, I don't care how powerful you are in the outside world. Here, I am the king. This is my camp, so you must abide by my rules." After Meng Fong finished speaking, he waved his hand. 4 soldiers carried a chair and placed it behind him. Hua. Meng Fong slowly sat down and scanned the surroundings. He said in a deep voice, "Teach the newcomer the rules. Those who attack will have an extra meal today." Roar! In an instant the prisoners went crazy. It was as if they had been waiting for this sentence. They beat their chests and stamped their feet, ready to attack. Yi Qinghan looked at this group of people with disheveled hair and dirty faces. He did not know how long they had been imprisoned here. Only 2 old men were considered clean. However, both of them had special shackles on their hands and feet. This was also considered special. The upper level had shackles on their hands and feet. The middle level did not have any special shackles, but they were all very obedient. In this sealed sky prison, even the most arrogant person would be tortured until they lost their temper. Hua! Before Yi Qinghan could observe his surroundings, 7 to 8 lower-level prisoners surrounded him in an instant. This group of people had cruel smiles on their faces. It was as if their hearts were twisted and they enjoyed torturing people. "Kid, let me teach you the rules," a middle-aged man with bronze skin and muscles all over his body said. He was 2 meters tall and his voice was deep like a large bell. "Old Shah, don't beat him to death. It's rare that we have a newcomer in our camp. It's more fun to play with him." A skinny young man grinned evilly. That's right. Having a newcomer is our benefit." Everyone started to jeer. At this moment, Meng Fong leaned on his chair and said with a feminine expression, "Everyone, don't be anxious. Take it slow. Today and tomorrow are everyone's rest days. Beat him until he understands the rules and knows how to lower his head and admit his mistake. This general will reward him handsomely." "All right." The prisoners laughed in response. They did not seem to hate Meng Fong and the others. Yi Qinghan's hands and feet were shackled. No one looked at him as if he was a piece of meat. Yi Qinghan's white robes fluttered in the wind, giving him an indescribably otherworldly appearance. His deep eyes looked at the lower plane cultivators who had surrounded him. There was no emotion in his eyes, but judging from Meng Fong's attitude, it seemed that he would not rest until he beat Yi Qinghan into submission. Hua! The divine seal chain. If he was weak in combat strength, how could he be personally escorted by the 9s and the 9 prefects and a prince? And the divine sealed chains. Was personally escorted by the 9 and 9 prefects and personally escorto to 2s. To him was to was to be restrained 2s. This was was. Divine to be. To gods. 2s. Was. 2s. To be. Bang. 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 The bare-chested man in the lead, Lao Sha, patted his chest, causing his muscles to tremble. He said proudly, "All of you, step back. Today, I alone can make him kneel and submit to General Meng Fong." The other lower-level cultivators retreated. They stared at Yi Qinghan and Lao Sha. Their eyes were cold and cruel. Boom! Lao Sha's aura was like a rainbow. He gathered his divine power and attached it to his fist. The power of the earth flowed to his waist and gathered in his fist. He turned his fist and punched towards Yi Qinghan like a whirlpool. Yi Qinghan gently raised his right fist. His godly power was sealed, but his physical body could not be sealed. He stomped his feet on the ground and became one with heaven and earth. It was as if he was heaven and earth itself. Who could defeat heaven and earth? Bang! The 2 fists collided. Shockwaves swept up sand and dust. Bang! Bang! Crack! The sand and dust obscured everyone's vision. They heard someone hurriedly retreat. His footsteps crushed the mountain rock. Then, there was the piercing sound of broken bones and a miserable scream. Thump, 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 the sound of a rapid heartbeat reverberated throughout the valley. Even Meng Fong sat up straight. He did not expect Lao Sha's punch to be so effective. "Don't kill him. The higher-ups have ordered us not to kill him," Meng Fong said angrily. The dust settled, but the one lying in the pool of blood was not Yi Qinghan, but Lao Sha. Lao Sha was convulsing, blood staining his entire body. Yi Qinghan's white robes had turned the color of sand, but his face was still clean. "Damn! Lao Sha has divine power. How did that guy beat Lao Sha without divine power?" someone exclaimed. Meng Fong frowned. He waved his hand and said, "Go and see how Lao Sha was injured." A powerful deputy general stepped forward and squatted in front of Lao Sha. He discovered that Lao Sha's arm was broken, but the worst was his chest. More than half of his ribs were broken, and there were clear footprints. It was clear that Yi Qinghan had kicked him with lightning speed. Hiss! Hiss! The lieutenant sucked in a breath of cold air. He brought Lao Sha closer to Meng Fong and said respectfully, "General, Lao Sha's arm is broken, his elbow is dislocated, and 6 of his ribs are broken." Meng Fong stared at the calm Yi Qinghan and sneered. "No wonder you were personally escorted here by the prince and the 9 prefectures. So you do have some skills. However, you dare to cause trouble in my tent. I'm afraid you're not strong enough. Anyone who can come to any of my ceiling sky prisons camps is an invincible king. However, even they have to kneel down and admit their mistakes. You are no exception." Yi Qinghan replied indifferently, "I'm afraid General Meng will be disappointed. I know everything, but I don't know how to kneel down and admit my mistake. There's no rush. I have plenty of time." Meng Fong was so angry that he laughed. He waved his hand and 5 rays of cold light shot out. Sabers, spears, staffs, and swords were inserted in the center. He said to the group of prisoners, "It's been a long time since you've tasted the taste of weapons. Today I'll satisfy you. Whoever beats him until he kneels down and begs for mercy will be heavily rewarded. If I'm satisfied, I'll even reduce his sentence by 30,000 years. When there's a great reward, there's always someone brave. I'll do it." Whoosh! A figure dashed over from the top of a mountain. He was as fast as lightning. He pulled out a divine sword and stabbed it towards Yi Qinghan. However, he was still a lower-level cultivator because the middle-level cultivator was still waiting. The harder Yi Qinghan was to deal with, the greater the temptation Meng Fong would release in the end. Whoosh! Boom! The lower-level cultivator's sword moved in all directions like a dragon soaring into the sky. His aura was like a rainbow as his sword intent wreaked havoc. He was definitely a supreme king amongst his peers. Whoosh! The chains danced in the air and blocked the divine sword. Yi Qinghan did not retreat at all. Instead, he forced the lower-level cultivator back several steps. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh! The chains wrapped around and bound the divine sword. With a backhand pull, Yi Qinghan pulled the young man's body in front of him. He lifted his leg and kicked the young man's wrist. Crack! Ah! The young man's wrist was broken and the sword in his hand flew out. Yi Qinghan grabbed it from the air and caught it in his palm. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan fiercely slashed at the chains. However, the chains were made of terrifying materials. Sparks flew everywhere. The divine sword was wrapped around the chains, but the chains did not move an inch. Ha ha ha! This is the God Seal chain. It can even suppress an upper-level cultivator. Do you think anyone can break free from it? Meng Fong laughed maniacally. Chapter 1903. Meng Fong laughed maniacally, causing everyone to laugh maniacally. Even the 2 low-profile old men with iron chains had a slight smile on their faces. Yi Qinghan looked at the divine sword in his hand and sneered. He actually grabbed the back of the sword with his big hand and exerted force, breaking the pseudo-saint artifact that was specially used for lower-realm cultivators. Ding! Bang! The sword whistled and its aura shook the galaxy. Boom! Yi Qinghan waved his hand and stabbed the broken sword into the mountain. He raised his head, and the corner of his mouth curled up. He looked very evil. Meng Fang's maniacal laughter subsided, and his face darkened. I don't understand your rules, and you better not make me understand them. I'm afraid you can't handle it, Yi Qinghan said calmly. In an instant, the valley became so quiet that even the sound of heartbeats could be heard clearly. Everyone stared at Yi Qinghan. Damn, what kind of perverted body is this? He didn't even use his divine power, and he actually broke a lower realm pseudo-saint artifact with just his body. Damn, where did this pervert come from? Hua! Those middle realm cultivators were originally calm, but at this moment, they couldn't help but stand up and look at Yi Qinghan from afar. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. Meng Fang's firm eyes flashed with surprise as he stared at Yi Qinghan. He suddenly laughed and said in a hoarse voice, "How interesting! No wonder the Crown Prince personally gave the order, and the 9 mansion lords and His Highness personally escorted him. It turns out that he really is a perverted monster. However, this makes me even more excited. I'm the best at dealing with monsters. Which middle realm cultivator will go down and teach this reckless newcomer a lesson? As long as you don't kill him, I'll reward you with a 16-grade sacred pill and 115 grade sacred pills." Meng Fang glanced around and said in a deep voice. But moments later, no one stepped forward. Clearly, everyone knew that those in the lower realms did not have the qualifications to teach Yi Qinghan a lesson. If they did not take this opportunity to ask for a sky-high price, the next newcomer might not be as monstrous as Yi Qinghan. Meng Fang frowned as he looked at the group of powerful prisoners. They were all monstrous geniuses, but none of them were willing to help him. A cold light flashed in his eyes as the corners of his mouth curled up. He said in a low voice, "Those who help will be rewarded with 3 6th-grade divine elixirs and 100 5th-grade divine elixirs." This time, someone finally moved. 3 16th-grade divine pills were a fatal temptation to these middle-level cultivators because they did not even have storage rings here. If they were seriously injured, they would not have any pills to heal their injuries. They could only wait for death to come. "Give me a sword, I'll do it." At this moment, a middle-aged man with a bare upper body sat on a small hill. His pants were tattered, but his face was full of heroic spirit. His aura was restrained, and he looked like a volcano that was about to erupt. It was fine if he did not move, but when he did, it would be earth-shattering. Yi Qinghan looked at this person. He slowly stood up, and his aura suddenly soared into the sky. However, there was an obvious scar on his leg. It was a ghastly sight. Yi Qinghan did not know how long it had been since it had not healed yet. Whoosh! The man limped down the hill. His eyes were abnormally firm. Before entering the sealed sky prison, he was probably rich and noble. Yi Qinghan licked his teeth and looked at the man. He was shocked in his heart. How many experts are locked up in this sealed sky prison? This is just one of the camps, and there are close to 1,000 people. There are even 2 upper realm cultivators. What is this holy empire of the Central Earth trying to do? Torturing these invincible kings like this? Could it be that they want to make them their slaves? Purring! A gust of wind swept over. The sword chi that cut through space woke Yi Qinghan up. Meng Fang actually threw out his sword, and it heavily pierced through the mountain rock in front of the man. "Feng Huang, as long as you cripple him and make him kneel down and beg for mercy, this general will give you wealth and glory. You will be my left and right hand," Meng Fang said sternly. Feng Huang was an expert from 30,000 years ago. He lost to Xia Jilong in the final battle, but he was too arrogant to submit. Since then, he disappeared. There were no more legends about him in the martial world. Who would have thought that he would be captured and brought here? Feng Huang was tortured for 30,000 years. For 3 16th-grade Saint pills, he had no choice but to submit. He had already lost the demeanor of a king. Feng Huang pulled out his sword and sneered, "Are you worthy? Xia Jilong is not. You and I each took what we needed. We owe each other 2 steps. Humph!" Meng Fong slapped the chair and snorted. His eyes flashed with killing intent as he said coldly, "Feng Huang, don't you know what the consequences of being stubborn are? Back then, you were an emperor among men, and now, you're still fighting like a dog for a few pills. Now, as long as you submit to His Highness, the Crown Prince, you'll enjoy endless glory, splendor, wealth, and rank. Unfortunately, you refuse to do things the hard way. After so many years, everyone has seen that as long as you enter the heaven-sealing prison, no matter which camp you belong to, as long as you don't submit, you'll either die or go crazy. In the end, your corpse will be strewn across the wilderness." Feng Huang limped towards Yi Qinghan as if he didn't hear Meng Fong's words. He looked up at Yi Qinghan and said coldly, "Brat, don't be stubborn. You can't take it. Kneel down and beg for mercy and I will spare you." "Ha ha ha ha!" Yi Qinghan laughed out loud. He was laughing so hard that he was rocking back and forth. He pointed at Feng Huang and said, "Feng Huang, is it? Since you're so stubborn, you should know that people like us won't give in. Cut the crap. You're heavily injured and I'm bound by the iron chains." Ding! Hua! Woo woo woo! As the sword whistled through the sky. Feng Huang looked like a mortal walking, but once he exploded, he was so powerful. His sword swept across the sky like a rainbow, raising dust in all directions. Yi Qinghan brandished the iron chain in his hand like a howling cold wind. Boom! Pring! The chains collided with the divine sword. Sparks flew everywhere, but the divine sword did not break the chains. Pring pring pring! Yi Qinghan was hit hard. He kept retreating, crushing the mountain rock. Every step he took left a footprint. Even if Yi Qinghan had godly force, he wouldn't be a match for an emperor, let alone one without godly force. Xiu xiu xiu! Feng Huang's sword was as fast as lightning, sweeping in all directions. Yi Qinghan could only retreat. He had no chance to resist. Yi Qinghan tied the chains around his arms and legs, blocking Feng Huang's attack. His arms were almost broken, but the chains did not move at all. There were no signs of them breaking. Yi Qinghan frowned. His soul was operating at high speed, thinking of a way to break the chains. If he could not use his divine power, he would be crippled today. "Divine bird, help me think of a way to break the chains." Yi Qinghan secretly roared. He wanted to contact the divine bird. But due to the suppression of divine power, the divine bird could only exist in the bloodline. It could not transform into its original body, nor could it speak. Yi Qinghan's eyes lit up. Seeing Feng Huang's sword become more and more ruthless, he suddenly thought of a plan. "Feng Huang and I alone cannot break the chains. But if we work together, we will have a chance." Yi Qinghan muttered to himself. He grabbed the chains with both hands. The chains stretched taut and quickly collided with the divine sword. "Ha!" Yi Qinghan angrily roared. The veins on his arms bulged. He fiercely exerted his strength. Together with Feng Huang's sword, he actually broke the chains. Purring! Xiu! When the chains broke, Yi Qinghan's body flipped. The divine sword fell from his face and cut into the ground. Chapter 1904. The moment the chains broke, the profound mysteries were severed. It could no longer suppress Yi Qinghan, and his godly power instantly recovered. Boom! Yi Qinghan struck the ground with his palm, stirring up a cloud of dust. His body shot up into the sky, transforming into a dragon. Hua! Flames spread all around, burning the heavens. Yi Qinghan stood on a fire dragon, looking down at all directions. He stared at Meng Fong and said coldly, "Your rules do not include me. How long do you think this great sky-sealing prison can trap me for?" "At most 100 years. Xia Zhilong will personally invite me out. Meng Fong stood up with a bang. A long spear appeared in his hand and his aura soared. Hua! The camp was instantly surrounded by guards, and even some of the patrol envoys rushed over. A faintly discernible aura instantly enveloped Yi Qinghan. It was the aura of an upper realm cultivator. The great sky-sealing prison, as its name implied, could seal the heavens. Once inside, no one could escape. Yi Qinghan sneered and said proudly, "I don't want to go out now. It's easy to send me in, but if you want me to go out, Xia Zhilong will have to personally invite me." "Who do you think you are?" Meng Fong asked coldly. Yi Qinghan laughed proudly. "You don't believe me? Let's wait and see." Meng Fong stared at Yi Qinghan. He could not figure out Yi Qinghan's identity. He frowned and said to the deputy general beside him, "Go and find out who this person is. Come back and report to me after you find out the truth." "Yes, General." The deputy general beside Meng Fong left respectfully. Yi Qinghan stared at Meng Fong and said coldly, "I will pay you back 100-fold for that spear strike. Wait until you get out alive." Meng Fong's eyes were filled with killing intent. If Xia Zhilong had not instructed him to keep Yi Qinghan alive, there would not have been so much trouble. Now that Yi Qinghan had god power, he was no longer afraid of the middle realm cultivators. No matter how weak he was, he would not be beaten up. As for the two upper realm cultivators, they had their own pride and would not attack a lower realm cultivator. Yi Qinghan and Meng Fong were at loggerheads. Everyone was waiting. This was the only time a newcomer had not been taught a lesson. Instead, Yi Qinghan had taught him a lesson. This was something Meng Fong could not tolerate. However, Meng Fong was a cautious person. Before he could figure out Yi Qinghan's identity, he would not act rashly. Once he did, he would definitely flip this camp in a fit of rage. Yi Qinghan slowly dispersed his aura. That faintly discernible divine sense also dispersed, no longer observing him. Meng Fong's camp was still deathly silent. Meng Fong sat back in his chair and waited silently. At this moment, the divine bird jumped out and pretended to be brave. Its aura soared to the sky as it looked down at everyone and said, "You guys even dare to blaspheme this divine bird's great master. You guys really don't know the meaning of death." Meng Fong rolled his eyes. He did not expect Yi Qinghan to be so strong. Even his divine pet was so impudent. A little realm lord rookie actually dared to show off in front of a group of kings. Yi Qinghan shrugged and did not stop the divine bird. In this boring prison, it was good to have some fun. In any case, they would not stay here for long. Seeing that no one refuted, the divine bird immediately became smug and said proudly, "Who will submit to this divine bird? When Crown Prince Xia Zhilong brings us out, I will bring you guys out as well." TSK, the group of kings sneered. They felt that the divine bird and Yi Qinghan had gone crazy. Was there any power in this world that could make the Crown Prince of the Holy Empire, Crown Prince Xia Zhilong, feel fear? A bunch of brats with no brains. That's all you can achieve in this lifetime. Stay here for the rest of your life. The divine bird shook its head. It had a look of disappointment. Yi Qinghan also shook his head and looked around. Looking at the group of imprisoned kings, he wanted to subdue them. However, if Xia Zhilong could not subdue them, he would not be able to do it either. Emperor Feng dragged his tired and injured body and held the divine sword in his hand. His sharp eyes stared at Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan shrugged and glanced at Feng Huang. With a wave of his hand, he took out a few level 16 healing pills and tossed them to Feng Huang. His storage ring wasn't taken away, so there were still quite a few pills inside. A few pills weren't a big deal, but the important thing was that there were two people he could use in the Seal the Heavens prison. Emperor Feng waved his hand and took the pills. When he looked at the grade of the pills, he was shocked. Everyone was also shocked. They did not expect Yi Qinghan to have a storage ring. He did not even put a level 16 Saint pill in his eyes, and casually threw it to a stranger. Everyone's eyes were burning with passion. "Why are you helping me?" Emperor Feng frowned and asked Yi Qinghan. "Consider it as a reward for helping me open the chains. Don't worry, I don't need your help. These pills are nothing to me," Yi Qinghan said lightly. Feng Huang sucked in a deep breath and looked at the bloody wound on his leg. This was caused by Xia Jilong. Without any pills, and the spiritual energy here was extremely scarce, even after so many years, not only had his injury not healed, it had actually worsened. Yi Qinghan's cultivation had been restricted by 60%. Otherwise, there was no way Yi Qinghan could have withstood his attack. "Many thanks," Emperor Feng said in a deep voice. "If you trust me, then I'll stand guard for you. If you don't, then there's nothing I can do." Yi Qinghan shrugged. He found a rock and sat down, then looked around at the crowd with a bored expression. Emperor Feng had no other choice. With his leg blocked, he could not circulate his battle strength. If this continued, his cultivation would be crippled. Hua! Emperor Feng stabbed his sword into the ground and sat cross-legged near Yi Qinghan. He swallowed 3 level 16 Saint pills. These were pills exclusive to middle-level cultivators. 1 pill could heal a middle-level cultivator, let alone 3. Hua! Boom! Boom! The dead blood in Feng Huang's body was instantly activated. His aura was like a rainbow as his blood gushed out like a flood. Divine light shot out from his body in all directions. When the godly pellet reached his legs, it was suppressed by a strand of sword qi, preventing him from recovering quickly. Meng Fong frowned and the long spear in his hand trembled. Of course, he did not want Emperor Feng to recover his strength. After all, this person was someone who could fight against Xia Jilong. Even if he was not as good as Xia Jilong, he was still not someone he could fight against in his peak state. Roar! Boom! Meng Fong made his move. His spear pierced through heaven and earth and turned into a ray of light that shot towards Emperor Feng. Shua! Yi Qinghan stomped on the rocks and his body flashed through the air like a sword. He grabbed the divine sword next to Feng Huang and swung it around. Boom! The divine sword clashed with the long spear. Qi soared into the sky and dust flew everywhere. Zing zing zing, Yi Qinghan retreated more than 10 steps until he was not far away from Feng Huang. His eyes flashed like lightning as he saw that Meng Fong had not retreated. Instead, Meng Fong had used all his strength to attack Feng Huang. Boom! Boom! Hua! Hua! Yi Qinghan stomped his foot and unleashed his strength. Veins popped out on his arms as he used his sword as a saber. It was as if he had the strength of 10,000 kilograms. A tyrannical aura spread out and swept across the area like a madman. "Open!" Yi Qinghan shouted angrily. The cold light tore through the dust, and the tip of the sword clashed with the tip of the spear. Sparks flew everywhere and the spear was almost broken. Ka! An ear-piercing sound tore through everyone's eardrums. The lower-level experts were sent flying and coughed out blood. Their faces were pale. Meng Fong was shocked. He was afraid that his life-source spear would break. He immediately retreated to disperse the impact. This time, Yi Qinghan did not move. It was not that he did not want to disperse the impact, but he was worried that Meng Fong would take the opportunity to kill Emperor Feng. "Mind your own business. You can't even protect yourself here. Do you want to protect others?" Meng Fong said coldly. "Ha ha!" Yi Qinghan laughed loudly. "Xia Jilong told you not to kill me. Do you think I can protect myself?" Meng Fong's expression changed and the killing intent in his eyes intensified. However, Yi Qinghan did not care about him. Chapter 1905. Feng Huang absorbed all the medicinal energy from the 3 pills, but the sword qi sealed his wounds, unable to break the seal. Hua! Feng Huang's body emitted a monstrous amount of divine energy, and his aura was shocking. He was still half a step away from recovery, but this half step was enough to stop him from moving forward. Yi Qinghan stood beside Feng Huang, frowning, and thought, since I've already given him 3 6th-grade divine pills, I might as well help him to the end. After thinking for a moment, Yi Qinghan took out another round divine pill, filled with divine energy, and waved his hand, sending it to Feng Huang. Since I'm a good person, take it, it should help you recover to your peak. Yi Qinghan did not seem to feel any heartache, as if he was giving away an ordinary pill, but this pill was taken from the underground palace, priceless. Feng Huang didn't recognize the origin of the pellet and swallowed it directly. Immediately, his pores opened up and the sword qi in his body was washed away. A majestic god qi flowed through his body and his divine sense became clear. The sword qi that had been suppressed for tens of thousands of years was destroyed. Feng Huang roared, and his aura rose several times, completely different from before. His ragged pants fluttered without wind, and his bones glowed with a crystal-clear light. Feng Huang exhaled a mouthful of turbid air, like a demon that was released, and his aura suppressed the surrounding experts, causing their hearts to beat wildly. Dong dong dong! At this time, even Meng Fang's heartbeat quickened, and the spear in his hand trembled. Hua! At this time, a figure descended from the sky, with shackles on his hands and legs, and moved as fast as lightning. When Feng Huang recovered to his peak, he directly sealed his divine energy, and then chained him up. Feng Huang was a special case. Other than the upper-level cultivator and Yi Qinghan, he was the only one who was chained up. The upper-level cultivator coldly glanced at Yi Qinghan and laughed sinisterly. Kid, you won't have a good ending if you meddle in other people's business here. Yi Qinghan smiled and rubbed the tip of his nose with his thumb. He said calmly, "It's okay. It doesn't matter if I suffer a little. After all, Xia Jilong will come looking for me after some time. No matter how much he punishes me, I will pay him back tenfold." Who do you think you are? Do you need His Highness the Crown Prince to personally escort you out? The upper realm elder mocked indifferently. Yi Qinghan smiled confidently. With a wave of his hand, he summoned the gold-devouring toad and the multicolored snake. He tied the multicolored snake to his waist, the little golden monkey to his left shoulder, the gold-devouring toad to his palm, and the divine bird to his right shoulder. Let's go. I'll take you guys on a treasure hunt. There are so many ore veins here. There must be some good ones. Yi Qinghan was too lazy to argue with the upper-level cultivator. He brought his divine pets and walked into the distance. It was as if he had become the overlord of the prison. The prisoners looked at Yi Qinghan in astonishment. They didn't think that the upper-level cultivator and Meng Fang really couldn't deal with this arrogant lower-level cultivator. After walking for more than 10 meters, Yi Qinghan suddenly turned around and looked at Feng Huang. He smiled and said, "I wonder if this Dao friend Feng Huang is interested in going on a treasure hunt together?" Feng Huang frowned. He couldn't figure out Yi Qinghan's identity. How could a lower-level cultivator be so arrogant? Could he have been sent by Xia Jilong? The cautious and suspicious Feng Huang didn't really trust Yi Qinghan. However, he didn't want to sit around and wait for death. At the very least, he had to investigate Yi Qinghan's identity. Okay. Feng Huang dragged the shackles on his feet and walked into the distance. His speed was very slow because the shackles were too heavy. Boom boom boom. Hua hua hua. The shackles let out a soul-stirring sound. Feng Huang quickly adapted to the shackles of the shackles and slowly walked forward. Yi Qinghan slowly walked forward. He didn't know how deep this heaven-sealing prison was. It should be a small secret realm. The outside was a desert, but the inside shouldn't be like this. The gold-devouring toad cried out in Yi Qinghan's hand. Its eyes were wide open as it looked around. Whoosh! The gold-devouring toad rushed out of Yi Qinghan's hand and ran directly to a cliff. It slowly groped around until it reached the center of the cliff. It actually started to gnaw with all its might. Perhaps because it hadn't eaten for a while, the gold-devouring toad's gnawing speed was much faster than before. Yi Qinghan didn't stop it. Instead, he silently waited. After gnawing for an hour, it actually broke through the cliff and rushed back to Yi Qinghan's hand. Feng Huang looked at the gold-devouring toad and said in astonishment, "This is the gold-devouring toad? The one who owns the gold-devouring toad has to be a powerful sect?" "Yes, this is the gold-devouring toad. I found it in the shrouding secret realm," Yi Qinghan calmly replied. Feng Huang went straight to the point. "I want to know who you are and why you're in the heaven-sealing prison." Yi Qinghan shrugged and answered truthfully, "I come from a small region and founded a small sect in the eternal Sword Dao sacred land. There aren't many people, only 30 or so, but they're all my brothers who grew up with me. My sect is called the Mad Sect. 1,000 years ago, I brought many of my brothers to the shrouding secret realm to train. We discussed with Xia Zhilong and other factions that if we obtained the flying immortal divine herb, the sacred lands would split the 9 eternal holy pills equally. After I obtained the immortal divine herb, I told my disciples to leave first while I stayed behind as a hostage. Perhaps my arrogance angered Xia Zhilong, who threw me into the heaven-sealing prison." Whoosh! Feng Huang took a step forward and stood side by side with Yi Qinghan. He looked straight into Yi Qinghan's eyes and nodded thoughtfully. Then, he reminded, "Since you're a small sect, you can't beat Xia Zhilong. Why are you so confident that he'll personally come here to take you out?" Yi Qinghan laughed and said, "The Oshi Sacred Land, Skyspan Cult, Eternal Sword Dao Sacred Land, Battle Clan, Hell, Middle-earth, and the #1 Wandering Cultivator will share the 9 immortal divine herbs. As long as Xia Zhilong doesn't come to take me out, the other sacred lands won't get the eternal holy pills. Xia Zhilong may not care about my mad sect, but I don't believe he doesn't care about the alliance of the 6 strongest sacred lands in the world." Feng Huang's eyes twitched. He looked at Yi Qinghan and asked with a frown, "Aren't you afraid that Xia Zhilong will attack your mad sect and take the immortal divine herbs?" Yi Qinghan smiled indifferently. "Without the protection of an eternal expert, do you think I dare to fight against Xia Zhilong?" Feng Huang didn't expect Yi Qinghan's plan to be so meticulous. Every step was taken to the extreme. If the mad sect was to be believed, Yi Qinghan would really be taken out by Xia Zhilong himself. Better safe than sorry. Be careful that the mad sect doesn't betray you and leave you here. After all, these are eternal holy pills, not something else. In front of absolute benefits, nothing can be trusted. Feng Huang reminded faintly. Yi Qinghan smiled. If the mad sect could betray him, then no one in the world could be trusted. The strongest of the mad sect's younger generation is a child I personally raised. The rest are my brothers who grew up with me. Even if the world betrays me, they won't betray me," Yi Qinghan replied confidently. Chapter 1906. Emperor Feng looked at Yi Qinghan's confident eyes and couldn't help but sigh. It was such an honor to have 20 or 30 people in one's life that one could completely trust. What he didn't know was that if anyone from the insane school was captured, he would personally do his best to save them, even if it meant going bankrupt. Whoosh! The two continued to walk deeper into the prison. The sound of the chains dragging on the ground was particularly ear-piercing. Yi Qinghan couldn't break the chains by himself, so there was nothing he could do at this moment. As they walked deeper into the prison, there was a camp every 3,000 li. The two talked for a while before Yi Qinghan understood that there were many young kings and supremes of the older generation imprisoned here. Most of them were sent here by Xia Zhilong, but some of them were criminals. The reason they were kept here until now was because the Holy Empire kept them here to train the young experts of the royal family. Every 10 years there would be a battle here, and the next one was only half a year away. Princes, princesses, and princesses all had a chance of dying here. However, their mortality rate was much lower than those of nobility. In the heaven-sealing prison, there was no supply of pills and spirit energy. When facing the powerful princes, princesses, and princesses, they didn't even have weapons. Naturally, the mortality rate was much higher. We're all lambs in captivity, no one is an exception. Unless we're lucky enough to encounter some death missions, as long as we complete them, we can leave this prison. However, the mortality rate of death missions is 99%, and in the end, we'll all be working for the princes. Emperor Feng smiled bitterly, as if he had already accepted his fate. What's the matter with those upper-level cultivators? Yi Qinghan curiously asked. Emperor Feng shook his head and said, I don't know how long they've been imprisoned here. There's no news of them in the outside world. Yi Qinghan silently nodded and didn't ask any more questions. After about 3 days, the gold-devouring toad suddenly became restless. The gold-devouring toad is restless. Is there a powerful weapon refining or nearby? Emperor Feng looked at the gold-devouring toad in Yi Qinghan's hand, then looked at the surrounding mountain range in astonishment. There were only caves everywhere, and they were filled with holes. There shouldn't be any divine items left. Yi Qinghan bent down and placed the gold-devouring toad on the ground, allowing it to move forward. Whoosh! The gold-devouring toad jumped several hundred meters away, directly rushing towards one of the caves. Yi Qinghan and Emperor looked at each other, then quickly followed. The caves crisscrossed and interconnected with each other. They were incomparably deep and bottomless. However, they were not steep. It was obvious that they had been dug by humans. Whoosh! The gold-devouring toad dragged the gold-devouring toad's footstep. Feng Huang was very careful, afraid that he would accidentally fall into the abyss. In order to save time, Yi Qinghan directly picked up the iron chain on his shackles to share some of his weight. The two of them sped up. The gold-devouring toad sped up and became more and more excited, but Feng Huang and Yi Qinghan didn't notice it at all. The divine bird was also surprised. What did this thing find? Why is it more excited than a pervert seeing a beautiful woman? The divine bird raised its eyebrows. It claimed to be a treasure hunter, but it couldn't feel the slightest fluctuation of spiritual energy. It couldn't help but feel angry. They were already deep in the cave, but there was still a faint light. For experts, the surroundings were clear. The rocks at the bottom were especially hard. Even with Yi Qinghan's body, it was hard to damage them. Those criminals had only given up because they couldn't feel the slightest bit of spiritual energy here. Dong dong dong. Yi Qinghan stepped on the rocks, the sound echoing in the cave, and the rocks continued to fall. But the gold-devouring toad and the little golden monkey actually went berserk. The two little guys waved their little claws, and the rocks shattered like rotten wood. The gold-devouring toad's golden teeth crushed the rocks like tofu. Ka ka ka. Kacha, the sound of rocks being crushed made the scalp numb. The gold-devouring toad and Yi Qinghan scratched their heads. Squeak squeak squeak. The little golden monkey jumped up and down, constantly slapping the rocks. The rocks actually became soft and turned into fine powder. This little golden monkey, what breed is it? The gold-devouring toad asked in shock. Yi Qinghan shook his head. This was Zhang Tianshan's treasure. He really didn't know what rank this divine beast was. It could open seals, and its current performance was even more shocking. Squeak squeak squeak. The little golden monkey smashed apart a large piece of rock, forming a deep pit filled with stone fragments. Its little claws pointed at Yi Qinghan, indicating for him to take the stone fragments away. Hua! Yi Qinghan waved his hand and swept away all the stone fragments. He discovered that the rocks below had turned scarlet red. The gold-devouring toad had already bitten out a sizable hole. It was even more excited now, and its fangs continuously gnawed at the rocks. The little golden monkey's claws were like divine weapons, tearing apart the rocks. Boom! Roar! But not long after, the gold-devouring toad and the little golden monkey were hit hard. The gold-devouring toad's small, golden teeth were broken, and it was bleeding. The little golden monkey held its claws and rolled on the ground. It was in so much pain that it began to cry. Screech! The gold-devouring toad screeched. It was like a sound from hell. It pierced Yi Qinghan and the gold-devouring toad's eardrums, and it made them stumble back a dozen steps. Their faces were pale, and they were bleeding. Yi Qinghan looked at the gold-devouring toad in shock. He didn't know what they had encountered to make these xenogeneics look like this. There must be some kind of supernatural iron ore down there. Otherwise, these two xenogeneics wouldn't be in this state, the gold-devouring toad said with certainty. Yi Qinghan nodded, but the gold-devouring toad was still screaming. They didn't dare get too close to it. The god bird was excited. No, it was excited. Ha ha ha. I told you. There is nothing in this world that can hide from the will of a god bird, the god bird boasted. Humph! Yi Qinghan groaned. Now it wasn't just the god bird. He could feel something that didn't belong to this world. After a long time, the gold-devouring toad and the little golden monkey finally recovered. They lay on the ground on the verge of death. Yi Qinghan quickly absorbed them into his bloodline to heal their injuries. Then, he went to the deep pit and cleaned up all the stone fragments. He found a layer of silvery white substance in the pit. Its aura was restrained just like ordinary iron. It only had a little spiritual energy. If it weren't for the light flowing on top of it, he wouldn't have thought that it was a supernatural substance. Yi Qinghan touched the glowing supernatural substance, and a warm stream of air flowed into his body. It was as if he was bathing in the spring of life, and all the pores on his body opened, absorbing the spiritual energy around him. His exhaustion vanished. The same was true for the gold-devouring toad. His injuries and exhaustion were all gone. He was full of energy, and his temperament was otherworldly. It seemed he was about to break through to the upper level. "What is this?" the gold-devouring toad asked. "Godly gold," Yi Qinghan said. He didn't know what this godly gold was, but the gold-devouring toad inside his body knew. At this moment, a soul wave exploded in his mind, and information about the godly gold flooded in. Chapter 1907. Divine gold was obviously a supernatural material. Otherwise, it wouldn't have knocked out several of the toad's teeth. It was a creature that fed on powerful minerals, so how could its teeth be knocked out by food? Divine gold. Emperor Feng raised his eyebrows. Even though he had seen a lot, he had never heard of the grade of this substance. Whoosh! Hiss! Yi Qinghan took a deep breath, his fingertips trembling as he said in a hoarse voice, "This is the material of an eternal sacred artifact. Every piece of divine gold has a companion creature under it, such as divine milk. It's an eternal sacred medicine, not inferior to flying immortal spirit medicines. It's specifically used to refine the body. For body refiners like us, it's even more precious than immortal spirit medicines." Emperor Feng looked at the divine gold in the two pits. It was at least 1 meter long and wide. This material couldn't be taken away. Once it was exposed, Xia Jilong would definitely come and take it away. He couldn't help but sigh. Unfortunately, it can only be used by others, Emperor Feng said truthfully. Yi Qinghan frowned. Naturally, he didn't want to give this treasure to Xia Jilong. His soul revolved at high speed, trying to think of a way to transport the divine gold out. That's not necessarily true. Yi Qinghan didn't want to work for others, but this material couldn't be stored in a storage ring, and it was so big. The two of them didn't have the ability to figure it out. No matter how hard they tried, it would be futile. The divine bird was also drooling, itching to pull the divine gold out of the pit. After a long time, Yi Qinghan sighed and said, "Let's ignore the divine gold for now. The companion creature under it must be mine. It's the essence of the divine gold, specifically used to refine the body. Once I take it, my body can be refined to the level of an eternal sacred artifact, invincible and unbreakable." Emperor Feng's eyes twitched in shock. He didn't expect Yi Qinghan to know so much. He also didn't expect there to be something more precious than the divine gold. "How do we take it out?" Emperor Feng asked. "Let's dig out the utmost divine gold first. The utmost divine gold elixir is under the rock. Judging by the size of this utmost divine gold elixir, it should weigh at least 50 kilograms. It's enough for me to cultivate to the peak of the upper level or even the eternal realm." Yi Qinghan couldn't contain his excitement. His physical body had reached the eternal realm. He was definitely the first of his kind in history. Feng Huang's eyes flashed with excitement. He used the sharp iron shackles on his shackles to cut the stone. Just as the two of them had predicted, this piece of godly metal was 1.2 meters long and half a meter wide. It was very irregular, just like an ordinary stone. Yi Qinghan cleared out all the rocks around him and reached out to pull out the ultimate divine metal. Drink plus. The veins on Yi Qinghan's entire body bulged, and his divine power poured out. The stone under his feet was crushed, but the ultimate divine metal did not move at all. Even Yi Qinghan could not estimate how heavy this small stone was. Ho ho ho! Dong! 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 Yi Qinghan gasped for breath. His face was red, and he shook his head. He looked at Feng Huang and said helplessly, "I can't move this ultimate divine metal. It really is worthy of being an eternal sacred artifact material." Feng Huang tied the iron shackles to the ultimate divine metal and said to Yi Qinghan, "Come, let's work together." Yi Qinghan pulled to the right, and Feng Huang pulled to the left, trying to pull it up by the roots. Boom! The ultimate divine metal moved slightly, but the iron shackles and the protrusions of the ultimate divine metal kept rubbing against each other. Sparks flew everywhere. Ka ka ka, the iron shackles were about to break. Feng Huang was overjoyed and said loudly, "Put down the ultimate divine metal. I will break the iron shackles first. After I recover my divine power, I can lift the ultimate divine metal up." Yi Qinghan's face was red, and his whole body was sore. His legs were twisted, and he slowly put the ultimate divine metal into the pit. Kacha! Kacha! Feng Huang placed the iron shackles on the protrusions of the ultimate divine metal and slid them back and forth. The ultimate divine metal was so sharp that it was like an eternal sacred artifact. The iron shackles immediately broke. Once the iron shackles were broken, Feng Huang recovered most of his divine power. With a tug, the shackles were broken. Then, Feng Huang also broke the iron shackles on his legs. His majestic divine power quickly recovered to its peak state. With the ultimate divine metal in his hand, his strength increased by 30%. Ha! Feng Huang roared, and his divine power roared as he pulled the ultimate divine metal up. Below the supreme divine gold, there was a small pillar that was like a tree root. The top was wet and fluorescent light flickered. Spiritual chi was boundless, especially below the root. It was actually like an endless treasury. Divine radiance flickered, containing endless life. Boom! Feng Huang quickly placed the ultimate divine metal on the ground. The cave almost collapsed. What a powerful spiritual chi fluctuation! Hua! Yi Qinghan sealed the entrance of the cave with his godly power and looked down at the deep pit below. It had already formed a huge round pit, and there were more than 100 caddies of godly elixir inside. It was like a small pond with dense godly elixir surging and overflowing with spiritual energy. Hee, I can't take the ultimate divine metal away, but I won't let anyone else take the divine liquid. Yi Qinghan laughed and took out a transparent jade bottle. Even if it couldn't hold a lake, it could hold millions of kilograms of liquid. Fortunately, the pit was not very deep. Yi Qinghan pressed the bottle into the pit and kept absorbing the divine liquid. The divine liquid wrapped around his wrist, and it was as if there was a viscous divine power squeezing into his body. It almost pushed him into the middle realm. The pores on his body exploded, and he kept absorbing the essence of the divine liquid. Gulp, gulp. Hearing the pleasant sound, Feng Huang did not stop it. He was not greedy at all, because he did not have a storage ring. Even if he took the divine liquid, it would only be a gift to someone else. After the time it took for an incense stick to burn, Yi Qinghan managed to extract 99% of the divine liquid. However, there were still some corners that he could not extract. Yi Qinghan quickly sealed the jade bottle and carefully kept it in his storage ring. He looked at Emperor Feng and said, "Brother Emperor Feng, there is still some left. You can use it." Feng Huang sat cross-legged at the entrance of the cave without any hesitation. His godly power surged as he sucked all of the godly liquid into his palm. The godly liquid contained an immeasurable amount of energy. It was countless times more potent than the godly pellet Yi Qinghan gave him. Boom, boom, boom. Feng Huang's godly power roared like a volcano that was about to erupt. His supreme god force was breaking through the bottleneck, and the godly liquid provided him with an endless amount of energy. Yi Qinghan stood at the side to protect Feng Huang, and he looked up warily. If they were discovered by the guards, Xia Zhilong would definitely snatch the godly liquid and godly metal away. A moment later, a towering aura enveloped the valley, and the entire cave trembled. Boom, hua! Feng Huang's godly aura rushed out of the cave like a flood. Some of the pillars in the cave could not withstand the impact, and they crumbled. Huge rocks fell from the sky. "Let's go, we'll leave the godly metal here. We'll definitely come back to take it in the future." The instant the peerless emperor's aura roared, it quickly returned to normal, returning to the peak of the middle stage. He grabbed Yi Qinghan's arm and rushed towards the entrance of the cave. Chapter 1908. Whoosh, boom, boom, boom. Whoosh. Huge rocks continued to fall like meteors, crashing down beside the two of them. Strong winds swept across their faces, causing their hair to dance wildly. Boom. The upper mountain collapsed, submerging the entire cave. The extreme divine metal was also buried in the cave. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan and Feng Huang shot out of the cave like two bolts of lightning, brushing past a huge rock. Their arms were immediately covered in blood. Humph! Yi Qinghan let out a muffled groan as he touched his left shoulder. It was bruised all over and his bones had almost been broken. Blood was flowing nonstop. "Sorry," Emperor Feng said with a shrug. "It's okay. This little injury is nothing. Let's leave this place quickly." Yi Qinghan glanced around and found no expert. He was relieved. The two quickly left. The divine bird squatted on Yi Qinghan's shoulder and said with regret, "He actually left the extreme divine metal behind. What a waste." But at this time, less than 5 days after Yi Qinghan left, Meng Fang's deputy general returned to the Sealing Heavens prison. In Meng Fang's camp, Meng Fang's deputy general bowed to Meng Fang and said, "Sir, I've found out the identity of that person. His name is Yi Qinghan, the sect master of a small sect in a small territory. This guy had an immortal herb in his hand that could refine 9 eternal immortal pills. However, the immortal herb was taken away by his disciple. That's why he thought that His Highness the Crown Prince would not dare to kill him." Meng Fang nodded thoughtfully and said, "I see. No wonder he dared to be so arrogant in the Sealing Heavens prison. He was confident that His Highness the Crown Prince would personally welcome him out. However, he underestimated His Highness the Crown Prince. How can a small sect like him defy the heavens? With His Highness the Crown Prince personally taking action, even the strongest force can be uprooted. The immortal herb will definitely belong to our holy empire. General, it is said that His Highness the Crown Prince did not take action. Instead, he is waiting for the people of the insane sect to redeem Yi Qinghan with an eternal immortal pill. The Deputy General immediately replied. Meng Fong was somewhat doubtful and asked, "Are you sure that His Highness the Crown Prince will give up on the other 8 immortal pills and only take one?" "General, there's something you don't know. Yi Qinghan has promised several holy lands. Even the insane sect only has one. The Crown Prince may want the insane sect's elixir, but he can't take the other holy land's elixirs," said the deputy. "No wonder." Meng Fong clenched his fists, took a deep breath, and said coldly, "Yi Qinghan, I'll let you be arrogant for a while. Once I get the immortal pill, His Highness the Crown Prince might not let you go. When that time comes, I'll make you beg for death." "But from what I've heard from Princess Yun Shui, she wants us to cripple him. It's best if we torture him to the point of insanity and force him to submit," the Deputy General said in a low voice. With this permission, Meng Fong was excited. He tapped the table with his fingertips and said in a hoarse voice, "Send people to capture Yi Qinghan and Emperor Feng." "No, I'll do it myself. You go and gather the troops." The Deputy General quickly gathered a large number of experts under Meng Fong's lead and rushed into the depths of the camp. He released a sky-piercing cloud arrow, which exploded in the sky. It seemed to be seeking support from the camp in the depths of the camp. Tens of thousands of miles away, Emperor Feng looked up at the sky-piercing cloud arrow and frowned. "What is Meng Fong trying to do?" "This is a sky-piercing cloud arrow used to capture fugitives. It's to remind the experts in the other camps to cooperate." "He wants to capture us?" "I don't think that's necessary. I have a tracking device on me. They can easily capture my location." Woo woo woo, a low sound of a bugle horn spread through the wilderness, echoing in the desolate mountain range. Then, a large number of guards brought some slaves into the prison. Emperor Feng and Yi Qinghan looked outside. Although they couldn't see anyone, they could feel a wave of energy coming from outside. It must be Meng Fong leading a large number of experts to capture them. "What are these bastards trying to do?" Yi Qinghan asked in surprise. Emperor Feng wasn't sure if they were trying to capture them because of Yi Qinghan. He had been in the prison for so long. What kind of crimes had he not suffered? Meng Fong probably wouldn't be in the mood to torture him. "They probably want to capture you," Emperor Feng replied calmly. "We'll fight them until Xia Jilong has no choice but to come and take me out," Yi Qinghan said indifferently. But Emperor Feng shook his head and said bluntly, "There's a sky-piercing mirror in this prison. As long as we're in the prison, the sky-piercing mirror will be able to capture our location. If we want to hide for 3 to 5 days, there's still hope." Yi Qinghan was full of confidence. He said proudly, "Where there's a will, there's a way. Have your edges been smoothed out? The sky-piercing mirror always has a blind spot. I still have a tracking device on me. It's behind my neck. Help me take it out." Emperor Feng's eyes flashed. He snorted coldly in his heart. He wasn't willing to accept the arrangement of fate. His arrogance from the past rose once more. Yi Qinghan looked at the back of his neck and saw that there was indeed a scar. He took out a dagger and gently cut it open. He discovered that there was a small tracking talisman wrapped around his bones. If he couldn't undo the talisman, he wouldn't be able to remove the tracking device. However, this wasn't a problem for the little golden monkey. Yi Qinghan called out the little golden monkey. At this moment it was still grimacing in pain. Its little claws were about to break. "Endure the pain," Yi Qinghan said. He had the little monkey remove the talisman. The little monkey patted the talisman with its left paw. Yi Qinghan didn't know how it did it, but the tracking talisman dimmed and lost most of its effect. Yi Qinghan tore it off. Emperor Feng's face was fierce. He endured the pain. God power flowed through his injured body, and he quickly recovered. Let's go. With that, Yi Qinghan threw the tracking talisman down the cliff. He rushed forward alone. He used his divine sense to explore the distance. He avoided the surrounding prisoners and went straight into the depths of the prison. Just as Yi Qinghan took out the tracking talisman, the red dot on the mirror in Meng Fang's hand disappeared. Why did the tracking talisman lose its effect? Meng Fang frowned. He looked at the mountain where Yi Qinghan and Emperor Feng disappeared. He led the army and rushed over. However, there was no one around. They can't escape. Chase them. Meng Fang said angrily. Deputy General Lin, go and ask the heaven-sealing prison's commander to activate the sky-piercing mirror. The disappearance of the tracking talisman on Emperor Feng's body is a big matter. We can't let our guard down. Meng Fang said. After receiving the order, Deputy General Lin changed direction and rushed into the depths of the prison. Half an hour later, Yi Qinghan and Feng Huang, who were hiding under a cliff far away, suddenly looked up at the sky. An aura that didn't belong to humans enveloped the entire heaven-sealing prison. There was no blind spot. A huge mirror appeared in the sky, sparkling with multicolored light, just like the heavenly eye. The sky-piercing mirror has been activated. The main location is near us. Hide your aura and hide in a cave. Wait for the sky-piercing mirror to move. Emperor Feng had been here for a long time. He knew the sky-piercing mirror like the back of his hand. He quickly hid in a cave and hid his aura. If he didn't see it with his own eyes, Yi Qinghan wouldn't be able to sense his aura. Yi Qinghan also hid his aura. He was like a rock. His body temperature dropped rapidly. The sky-piercing mirror scanned the surroundings again and again. It seemed to be certain that the two were here. After a long time, Emperor Feng started to panic. If they were caught this time, it wouldn't be as simple as a punishment. The tracking talisman would be destroyed. Once the heaven-sealing prison thought that they had lost control, they might give the order to kill them. Yi Qinghan frowned. He was thinking about how to escape from the sky-piercing mirror. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.